Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Hiruzen get to know how Naruto has been treated and takes under his power part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Stuck between both small and big balls of fur, waggling and stumbling, struggling to just move. Caught between the legion of overactive fur balls, thrown to every edge of the pen. Eventually, one of them flung backwards, catching me at my side and ricocheting me into the backside of another. Dog butt. Lovely. To be perfectly honest, I should have seen this coming. Given my last name, this is the one thing I shouldn't have been surprised over. I should be perfectly happy with this situation. Rolling around in the dirt along with the rest of the Niken, having the time of my life. Thing is, I don't. Don't get me wrong, I like dogs and all. But being one? No thanks. So, how did I end up in this situation? Well, I don't really know, but maybe recounting the past can get me some answers. You see, I'm not meant to be here. No, I'm not that kid. I'm being as serious as possible about this. I'm not meant to be here because this is not my world. I'm not meant to be in a world that selectively breeds and trains children to be emotionless killers. Not meant to be in a world that starts a world war every other decade. And definitely not meant to be in a world where people can literally split the seas and wreak havoc on the earth, able to bend reality itself on a whim. This is a manga. Or an anime, either one or a strange mixture of both, I don't really know. Simply put, it's the Naruto universe. I never truly believed in the concept of reincarnation. Sure, it sounded nice. But it was just another half-hearted explanation for the afterlife among the many others before it. No one truly knew what happened after death. But that's the only logical explanation for my being here that I can think of. As logical as you can get with death, at least. In the last world, I was an average guy. Just about ready to head off to college, filled with hopes and dreams, if a bit apprehensive for the future. A little introverted, but not enough to actively keep me from socializing. I didn't have any major flaws or talents either, so I couldn't have possibly been chosen for something. Though I suppose that hardly matters now. In this world, I am Inuzuka Arita, second born to the clan head, Inuzuka Hisao of the Inuzuka clan of Konohagakure. My mother, Inuzuka Yuna, initially wanted to name me Kiba, but decided that it was too fierce for my cute little face. Being an infant again after so long was terrifying. Not being able to see, along with barely being able to move my body, was torture. To add on, a few weeks into my new life, I began feeling a something under my skin. Like 20-something strangers very softly tracing a finger over your entire body. Constantly. When I wasn't being fed or sleeping, the only thing I could focus on was that feeling. Combined with my decreased vision and loss of control over bodily functions, well, let's just say I wasn't the most mentally stable of children. I probably drove my new parents up the wall with how much I cried. What I learned later was that the feeling was actually my chakra system developing. Chakra in and of itself was foreign to me, so of course I would notice when it's literally worming itself through me. On a happier note, by the time I was 6 months old, my vision started getting better and I gained some control over my body again, though the feeling of chakra coils shaping and weaving themselves around my organs didn't really go away. I also got to know my parents a lot better right around this time since I could, actually see them. I took it upon myself to also start learning the language they were speaking too, which didn't turn out to be all that hard. They were speaking Japanese after all, although slightly different from what I remember. I studied Japanese before in high school for quite some time, so it wasn't too foreign to me. Some words though I've never even heard of before, and some grammar rules I had to relearn entirely. It made for some interesting mix-ups. With my increased vision also came better hearing and smell, way better than my old life's ones, which should have been the first indicator towards what and where I was. My parents are interesting, to say the least. After the breastfeeding stage, they weren't around very much anymore, frequently vanishing for weeks or months at a time, leaving me taken care of by whoever was in one place long enough to spare a few hours. When they were there, they were big bundles of energy smashing through the monotony of infant life, though I could tell they were very tired coming back home. When they could make time for me, they would bombard me with all kinds of love and affection. Sometimes, though, when they thought I wasn't looking, they would carry this world-weary face and stare off into the distance, like they were searching for an answer to a forever unanswered question. With their long absences and weary appearances, I could guess what type of period we were currently in. I silently hoped we would all get through it without losing anyone. A few months after my birth, they left again, and didn't come back. From what I heard, they were still alive. That's the only word I had from them. Being the new head's child, I was naturally expected to be a ninja, and was thus treated accordingly, which as soon as I found out about was greatly mortified by. I didn't have long for coming to terms with it, however, as when I found out I was being hauled to a different place than my usual room. The Inuzuka have a very strange concept of child rearing. As soon as I was old enough to crawl, I was immediately thrown to the dogs. Not literally, of course, throwing a child is never a good idea. But still. Early childcare didn't have much parental involvement, preferring to raise them somewhat communally in the kennels alongside the Nikken. Supposedly it's to help tuning in with our primal selves or whatever, which is what brings me to my current predicament. You see, during my stay in the kennels, I noticed that the Nikken basically owned the place. The human children, at the bottom of the hierarchy, were thus naturally inclined to follow their leads and imitate them. Not knowing any better, they ate and slept and played just like any other dog, but I know better. Almost 2 decades of knowing better. To say I didn't fit in was an understatement. The caretakers would often send me weird looks every once in a while, and not wanting to attract suspicion, I had to try to imitate the rest. It was awkward and frankly a little condescending. Being a baby again and not being able to do much because of it has been a very humbling experience, but to have to literally grovel in the dirt is a new low. Can you imagine? Humans tend to touch their face a lot, but now I'm basically forced to do that with my foot. My foot. Over and over and over. So now I've gone full circle. Still in dog butt and none the wiser. What now? These last few years have been interesting, to say the least. Along with learning how to be a dog, we were also taught several other things. Fun things. The kennel we stayed at was multi-purpose to also be a kindergarten. We would attend classes alongside the Nikken, learning the basics of language, history and math early on. Naturally, with language came speech, which some Nikken were capable of and others weren't. They were still able to perfectly understand them, however, which was strange. The weird thing about the classes we took is how advanced everyone seemed to be. Toddlers here are much quicker at picking up concepts than back home. The 2-year-olds were already moving to first grade reading and subtraction of double-digit numbers. Hell, I know adults that can't do those things. Thinking about it, that does make a whole lot of sense. Even if they were geniuses, you still wouldn't let people like Kakashi serve in your military at 5. For that very reason, I purposefully held back during classes. Let me tell you, holding back from speaking like a normal person was immeasurably hard when you're being taught to speak every single day. I have no doubt that I came off as a weird and maybe even a little creepy compared to the other children. Being part dog now also means that they adopt the general extroverted nature of one. And I was very much not. The other kids don't like me all that much because of it. Exclusion and bullying naturally followed. That was halfway expected from the children, but the caretaker's response was what worried me the most. They were aloof most of the time, but gradually treatment worsened. My bowl at lunchtimes would sometimes be deliberately skipped over. Other days they would ignore questions I had in teachings. They would look the other way whenever the kids' harassment got out of control. Then, eventually, they would shift blame on me for things I hadn't done. There was more, but I don't generally like to think about it. My mood gradually worsened the longer I was stuck in that place. The thing was that I didn't know why my treatment was getting so bad. It reeked of outside influence, but what, I couldn't tell you. I didn't have any people I could talk to at all some days. It was all a bit maddening. Then, a break in the mold appeared as suddenly as she left. So you're Arata, huh? You don't look like much, she said with a not-quite sneer. A girl, or a woman rather. Looks to be in her early 20s, at first glance looks just like any other Inuzuka, but exudes a totally different air. Dominance. Everything about her screams alpha. Forgot to how to talk? Speak up, boy. I ain't got all day. Impatient too? How nice. Right now, we were at the entrance of the kennel, which was basically just a giant room with haphazardly placed fold-in chairs every few meters or so. It acts as a sort of meeting room for relatives and such to interact with the young pups and children. A lot of times, parents come into this room to check in on their children. Since my parents are off at some outpost somewhere, I don't generally get many visitors. I turned to face her. I usually prefer to keep quiet. I tend to creep people out. She narrowed her eyes. I don't think you'll have to worry about that with me. This might be a little rude, but who are you? This time definitely a sneer. The name's Sim. Apparently your older sister. My eyebrows shot upward, and I opened and closed my mouth over and over again, trying to find words for this situation. Nice fish impression. I shut my mouth. She smiled. It was news to me too. Got a letter yesterday when I came back from AIM from our parents finally letting me know of your existence. I had a sudden strong urge to facepalm. I hope they know I'm 4 years old by now. She huffed, and sat a little laxer in her chair. Yeah, they've never been very good with time, or anything else outside of fighting. I scowled, not impressed. Great. She said nothing for a while, just taking a moment to stare at me. I stared back. You know, I thought you'd be a lot different. I looked away. You're not the only one, I replied solemnly. Well, it's not like I dislike you either. Her look turned more considering. Hey, once I come back from deployment, come look me up. I'll let you meet Kuramaru, she said, like it was some great honor I got to meet her dog. Sim stood up to leave, waving back at me as she began walking away. She made a beeline for the exit, not caring if anyone was in her way. Not like it mattered, since people scrambled aside as soon as she got close. Not until the day after did it sink in that I had just met my first canon character. And that she was my sister. This just served to hammer down more that yes, I was strictly in the Naruto universe, not some similar-looking offshoot. Joy. On a more disturbing note, the shinobi training started just last month, once our entire age group turned 4. It was very basic stuff, basic chakra theory, recognition of basic weapons like kunai, mission rankings, shinobi rankings, etc. Still, we were taught these things with the mindset that yes, we were going to use all this knowledge to kill. And it wasn't that part that bothered me the most, it's that it was so subtle yet so in your face at the same time. For an example, instead of picture books of something like animals you have picture books of common weaponry, or widely used jutsu. From birth, we are not only engineered to become killers, we're also conditioned. And somehow, I'm going to have to survive in this crazy world. Luckily for me, the war just ended. Abrupt? Yeah. That's basically how it felt for me too. The news of Iwagakure finally surrendering just came in yesterday, and everyone was more than overjoyed. The caretakers rushed into the kennel and hugged us all to death, shouting and leaping for joy all the while. They even hugged me. It meant little to me, since my family's still at their respective outposts for the cooldown. Seeing as they're in Izuka, they're probably doing a lot of tracking, searching for the MI along with verifying the body counts. It clearly meant a lot to the others though, seeing as how the heavy mood around the adults I didn't even realize was there started lifting. Accordingly, they started treating me a bit better as well. I got to learn how to fix my own clothes. Yeah. Just the calm before the storm. Based on the meager amount of evidence I've been collecting, the war that just ended was only the second one. If I remember correctly, the third came not too long after. I'll probably be old enough to fight in that one by the time it comes, so I'm going to have to make use of the time I have now to get as strong as possible. And so here I am, starting the day after the announcement. I sat down with a couple of leaves and started working on the leaf concentration exercise shown in class the other day. I've been consciously aware of my chakra for years now, even if the uncomfortable feeling went away, I can still tell it's there. Manipulating it wasn't all that hard, in the end. I accidentally learned how to do it when I was bored in my crib one day. I couldn't do a lot with it yet, but manipulating the flow to different parts of my body had a strange calming effect not dissimilar to meditation that kept me from getting bored too often. Point is, I have a small head start on the rest. Not to brag, but I had the leaf concentration exercise perfected by the end of the day already. After that, I moved on to steadily thicker materials until I could hold a small block of concrete to my feet. I was a little scared to ask for more control exercises, so I had to wait for the others to catch up to be taught more. Aside from control, we've also started working on our bukijutsu. Mostly just wooden kunai and shuriken, but every bit counts. Taijutsu naturally being a big part of the Inuzuka style, we started doing conditioning as soon as we could walk. Never being the most active person in my previous life, this was most obviously the hardest part for me. I've seriously considered just rolling over and dying many times. I mean, running laps we had to do them both on 2 and 4 feet interchangeably. We hadn't even learned the 4 legs technique yet, so it felt very awkward. The rest of my time was spent searching for whatever information I could get my hands on. Given that I couldn't leave the kennel and the place's reading material didn't advance beyond 3rd grade level stuff, I didn't get much. I tried to do this all covertly, since the caretakers weren't too fond of me snooping around. Their punishments weren't fun. Sadly, they were frequent, especially compared to the amount of times they had an actual reason for it. Yay. That's basically how my life continued until right around 5. So kids, the new academy term will be starting next month, so there will be a small assessment next week to see if you'll be joining it or you'll be waiting for next year. That's all. You can go now. The instructor walked off, back to the break room from where he came from. That's odd. It seems I'm not the only confused by this, as several of the other kids have absolutely no idea what's going on either, sending confused glances to each other. After a while, each of them starts their own version of training, not wanting to be left out of the program this year. Already putting us in competition, huh? Well, I don't really mind. Turns out I didn't really need the extra training. Although my physical scores were left a little wanting, the rest was more than enough to get me through. In truth, The test was only for those who couldn't keep up the basics and would embarrass the clan if they were sent out prematurely. So that leads me to now, being led as a group to academy grounds. Let the school arc begin, I guess. I just hope I can avoid the clichés. The group we traveled with was rather big compared to the others I saw walking up. 5 loud and rambunctious little children dragged along by a caretaker named Shizuka. Oh. And me. Are you excited for today, Arita? Shizuka asked me, with 2 kids dangling from her arm and one on her back. Probably trying to eat her hair. I like Shizuka. She's the only one of the caretakers who doesn't avoid me. Bonus points for not treating me like a dog either. Often when the caretakers want me doing something, they use Shizuka to tell me. At the same time though, she always tries to make me talk for some odd reason, and doesn't get weirded out when I do. I guess? I don't really know what to expect, I replied. Well, first days at the academy are always just orientation, so you don't have to worry about it too much, she replied back casually. The kid on her back moved on to balance himself on her head. If anything, you should try making some friends. Cammy knows you need them. She smirked. Friends? I'm more than a decade and a half older than every single kid in there. How am I supposed to connect with someone who can barely say the word meticulous? Friends are hardly my priority. She made a sound that sounded much too similar to a scoff. You're going to need to develop at least some social skills if you're going to be a successful ninja. Friends are a great way to get those social skills, she scolded. And forming bonds with your comrades is very important, especially with other clans. Like who? The Hyuga? To me, that would be equivalent to declaring allegiance to Land of Water. Ergo, a death sentence. I don't need those. I have a perfectly good bond with the clan already. I pouted. Oh yeah? What's her name? She pointed to an Inuzuka girl about 5 meters ahead of the rest of the group, trying to catch a bug with her hands. Mariko? She smirked. Mariko? I tried. It got bigger. Fumiko. I was getting desperate. My point has been made. I walked ahead, making sure that I was in between Shizuka's group and Butterfly Girl, so I wouldn't have to talk to either. The academy itself looked a little different than during the show. It had a newer feeling to it, and an aura of expectation. Clearly a repainting was just done, along with a restructuring of the training grounds in the back. Everything was nice and clean, but the smells were a different story. The place smelt like wood, obviously. But under that there were many more smells. Scrolls, ink, sweat, iron scrap. I didn't take many trips out to the village itself too much, so I haven't actually learned the smell of many things outside the kennel. Coming to the academy was like stepping into an entirely new dimension. People in Chunin vests were already organizing people into classes, lists in their hands, and showing directions. Okay kids, this is it. Be good. The teachers here are a lot less lax than I am, so you better listen to them. She waves us off as we join the rest of the group around the Chunin waiting for their room assignment. Inuzuka Arita? Let's see class 202. Go up the stairs and follow the hallway to the right and just keep going. There's a big sign saying 202, go there. I was thankful that none of the other Inuzuka seemed to be following me to my classroom. Don't think that could have gone well in any capacity. Opening the door to the class and walking in, I was immediately greeted to a face full of youthful vigor. No, not Guy. Out of the way. A girl with long purple hair up in a ponytail charged straight over me as I ducked. Hey wait. Another kid, this time with short dark gray hair, ran after her. Give me back my bakken. Yeah no, I wasn't getting myself involved in that. I made an effort to remain as casual and inconspicuous as possible as I walked to a seat in the back. Over the next 30 minutes the class filled from half full to jam-packed. There was barely enough space in the seats. The overall class mood was an interesting mix of nervous anticipation and cheer that really only kids could exude. Oh, if it could last, I thought, as the teacher walked in. Good morning. My name is Yamanaka Chizuru, your homeroom teacher. You will refer to me as Chizuru-sensei. From this day forward I will expect a lot from you. So much so that, most likely, I will not see at least half of you by the time the year ends. She paused, supposedly to let the kids process what she just said. Reading the room, I'd say the reaction isn't jovial. In spite of that, the academy's curriculum is not based on whether you pass or fail. It's based on whether you have the physical and mental fortitude to overcome the pressure that's put on you. I hope you will work with me to make the best of this year. That said, I will now be handing out your syllabus. Well, guess she's not a Yamanaka for nothing. Using that declaration in such a stoic manner to grab their attention immediately sets the mood for the class. along with earning her respect by default as a representative of these values. Anyone that questions her way of teaching is then put to blame for complaining simply because they weren't good enough to make the cut. Or maybe I'm thinking too much into this. Not unlikely. The academy, as a rule, will still use your test scores in the class ranking, which will be shown at the front of the school. The textbooks. We have class rankings? Well, I shouldn't be surprised they do in Japan. Openly displaying it like that is worrying, though, especially among cutthroat competitive ninja children. In the show, they seem to put a lot emphasis on it. It was Naruto's nickname, after all, dead last. I don't know how much emphasis I want to put on that yet. It'd be safer to stay in the mid-ranges probably. Don't want to catch too much attention, just in case the white masks come calling. Lastly, I will have to inform you that fighting outside of sparring is strictly forbidden. That is all. She grabbed her bag, pushed up her glasses, and walked back out the same way she came in. That was succinct? Succinct. The class was mostly silent, still processing what exactly just happened. A few seconds later, another teacher walked in. Hello, children. My name's Yumino Ikaku, and I'll be your general's teacher. I'm sure you're very curious on what exactly that means. Well, generals is exactly what it sounds like. My job is to cram as much knowledge about language, math, anatomy, and history into your brain as possible. It seems he's just going to ignore the students' collective confounding. I don't blame him, I'd do the same. Wait. Hold the phone. Yumino? As in Irika? Well, that explains a lot. If you take some big leaps in logic. Just like Chizuru-sensei, he handed us a syllabus and left, although he definitely took his time going over exactly what to expect from his class. A stark contrast to Chizuru-sensei. This cycle would repeat twice over with 2 more teachers until lunch inevitably came. Walking onto the playground, I was nervous. Very much so. We weren't allowed to stay inside to eat our lunch, so I'm now going to have to find a free spot in a crowded yard to eat at and process. I picked the most out-of-the-way spot I could find to sit down and eat my lunch. Slightly burnt chicken with rice and vegetables on the side. Shizuka made it for me. Not exactly a king's meal, but better than I've had in a while. I'll take it. So, academy? So far? Not bad. I had little to go off of, but this place seemed promising. Not nearly as suffocating as the kennels. Out of boredom, I started watching the other kids run around the playground, food hastily stuffed down their mouths and already starting up games of tag. Oh look, it's that purple-haired girl again. Wasn't she the proctor of the Chunin exams? Enko, right? Orochimaru's pupil. Nope. It seems that peacefully eating my lunch wasn't meant to be, as someone eventually came to walk up to me and interrupted my thoughts of cute, small and adorable puppies being viciously mauled by snakes. Can I sit here too? The kid from before, with the bakken. Seems he got it back too. Good for him. I nod. He used the puppy dog eyes technique. Couldn't say no after that. He sits down next to me, a little bewildered, and starts eating his lunch. Rice with some sort of vegetable soup. We sit and eat in silence for a while. What's your name? He asked. I raise an eyebrow at him. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to introduce myself first, right? Not what I was going for, but okay. My name is Shirakawa Hayama. Nice to meet you. Silence. He looks at the ground. Then back at me. Then the ground. Ugh, fine. Inuzuka Arata. The look on his face was dazzling. Really? You don't look like an Inuzuka. This is going to be a thing here too? I'm aware. More silence. Are you excited for the academy? I know it's only been like half a day, but we could grow so much here. Learn so many different things, and I just let him keep talking, slowly eating my food all the while. A few minutes later, a group walked up, led by the snake charmer herself. She started yelling at me. Hey! Why are you hanging around that weirdo? You should come play ninja with us. We need one more player, and Tomo said you'd be fast, so come on my team. Little girl, I am right here. You really don't need to be this loud. My poor Inuzuka ears. Hayama, who was thoroughly dismissed by her, stopped talking entirely and scooted back to hide behind me. Sigh. I thought I was going to be escaping the clichés. Whatever then. I'm not interested. The atmosphere changed subtly. And why is that? She asked, accusing undertone very much present. Maybe honesty will do the trick. I don't really like you, and I have no real interest in playing ninja. Also, Hayama's not weird. He just talks too much. I heard a squeal from behind me. Probably shouldn't have said that last part. Then again, no one could ever accuse of me of having social skills. The more I spoke, the more offended she seemed to get. What did you say, punk? She grabbed my shirt to hold me up to her face. Okay, so maybe honesty isn't the best way to go with ninjas. Go figure. Is there a problem here? Chizuru-sensei, who just body flickered behind Anko, changed the atmosphere from slightly broiled to chilling. Well, sensei, I just said I didn't really want to play ninja and she got like this. The look of both fear and anger she was giving me was priceless. Chizuru-sensei took Anko to the inside of the building, leaving her posse standing there baffled, before they eventually left as well. What? Hayama peeped out. No idea. I will never understand children. I made eye contact with him. So, I guess we're friends now? He nodded vacantly. The rest of the day was more of the same, with 2 more teachers coming in and out. The last one took us on a tour through the whole school and afterwards we were promptly dismissed. As I walked out of the building to meet back up with Shizuka, I was stopped by Anko. She ran up to me and put her hand heavily on my shoulder. You. Me. 6. Training ground 12. Today. She whispered, and then stalked off. Well, that was quick. Arch nemesis acquired. Or something. Walking up to Shizuka, I did something I haven't done since being reborn. I started a conversation. Shizuka. I got invited for a playdate. Can I go? Now that we were officially academy students, we were allowed some more freedom, which means I could go out into the village during the daytime. She was stunned for a few seconds, then delighted said, Of course. Make sure you come back by 9. We're going to be having tonkatsu to celebrate your first day at the academy, so you can't miss it. I smiled, deceptively mild. Thanks. I ran off to go find myself a map because I didn't actually know where training ground 12 is. Now let's see here. Where should I even go to find a map? A tourist hall? In a hidden village? Didn't think so. You know what, let's just ask around. I walk up to a random ninja taking the boring way through Konoha, walking the streets. Medium height. Short black hair, black eyes. In a world where primary colors for hair is normal, he almost stands out. Hey mister, do you know where I can find training ground 12? He raised an eyebrow at me. And why would a kid like you need to know that? Oh right. I'm on a scavenger hunt, and one of the clues says it's close to there. Smile. Don't forget to smile. You're an innocent and unassuming kid that isn't about to do anything. No, sir. He grunted. Very well then, the training grounds are found on the eastern outskirts of the village. There should be a signboard around the area you could use. It was already 5:45, so I hurriedly thanked him and left. I scrambled east, almost at a running pace, but not quite so as to preserve energy for the actual fight. I arrive, and sure enough, there is a giant sign board that tells me of the location. I open the fence to the training ground and walk in. The place itself is basically a giant field, with a small lake to the left and a collection of trees to the right. Anko herself is already there, casually leaning against a tree. Noticing my presence, she walks over to the center of the field and faces me. You ready to get your ass beaten? I don't take crap from nobody. Not even clan kids. Bring it, loser. She adopted a rudimentary battle stance with knees bent and fists at her sides. We weren't taught any actual taijutsu yet, so truthfully, I have no idea how to actually fight. What we were taught, however, is body enhancement with chakra. I can improvise. Not really knowing what stance to pick, I adopted Lee's one. One arm behind the back, and one arm in front with knees bent. God, this is weird. Let's go then. She certainly wasted no time, opening her pouch and launching projectiles at me. I sidestepped them. They were pretty poorly aimed, and not with a lot of speed, but... Real kunai? Are you crazy? The girl somehow got real honest to God throwing knives in a kid's brawl. She charged with a yell, not bothering to answer. Okay then. Let's try this. Lariat! I charged as well, channeling chakra to my legs and drastically increasing my speed, arm roughly colliding with Anko's neck. She tumbled backwards, coughing all the while. Wow, that actually worked. Somewhat. She stood back up. Is that you walk all you have? She threw more projectiles, Samban this time. With my chakra-enhanced speed I dodged even more of them and raced around to her back. No, I said, as I delivered a roundhouse kick to her side. She fell over again, this time not getting up. So what was that about not taking any crap? She glared at me. I'll get you back for this. She once again reached for her pouch, dropping smoke bombs. In the resulting smoke, I couldn't see her fleeing. I could still hear her open the gate, and her scent getting more distant, but pursuing this isn't a wise idea by any means. I walked out of the training grounds myself, feeling in a good mood. About beating a 5-year-old. Never mind, I feel awful. That was a sad excuse for a fight. A male voice, faintly familiar. I know. The man comes out from behind me and I turn around to face him. It's the same man from before. You were watching? Why? Of course. I knew from the get-go you were lying to me, and children usually aren't allowed on the training grounds. Even off duty, I am still part of the Konoha police force. Yet. Play it cool, play it cool. You can do this. Well, I was invited and it felt rude to refuse. He snorted. Your taijutsu was horrendous. I snorted back at him. I'm 5. You certainly don't act 5. I crossed my arms. Stalking a child through Konoha isn't what I'd call military police behavior either. He stayed silent. What's your name, boy? I considered lying, then discarded that idea immediately. Lying's what got me here in the first place, and it's not going to get me out. I don't need that lesson twice either, thank you very much. Note to self. Work on your deception skills. Inuzuka Arata. Yours? He smiled a toothless smile. Uchiha Fugaku. I hope I don't see you again anytime soon. I smiled back the same way. Me either, sir. He body flickered out. I let out a sigh. Coming back to the kennel, I was greeted by a worried Shizuka. What happened? It's barely 7. I walked in and took off my shoes. Nothing. They weren't very friendly, so I left. She frowned. Hey, lying to Shizuka doesn't count. She never catches on anyways. Suddenly her frown turned into a smile. Well, lucky for you, Chiyoko just had a new batch of litters, so we'll be doing your first compatibility test soon. The compatibility test is exactly what it sounds like. You'll be going through a short trial with each and every new dog to see if you'll end up partners or not. It's actually more ritualistic in nature, but the Inuzuka were never one for formal things. It involves making an uncomfortable amount of eye contact and seeing if your chakra can connect with each other. If you form a bond, you're compatible and that pup will be your partner in the future. If not, you gotta wait for the next batch. At least, that's what I scraped together from the fragments of info people told me from the experience. Honestly, I don't know what to expect, but I just hope he won't be as loud as the rest. Great. Arata? Oh. This way, come in. The head veterinarian, a middle-aged woman named Yuemi, urged me inside. We're currently in a fairly big nursery on the outskirts of the compound, getting me sorted for my compatibility test. Along with all the usual nursery stuff, it also has many other things. It definitely has a more laboratory feel with all the seals lying around doing something. What isn't exactly clear, though I can tell there's chakra running through the lines connecting them. Take a seat, Arata, I'll just be grabbing some forms here and there. She scrambled around for papers on her desk. Next to it, there was a large cradle with no one in it. How's the academy going? It's been about 3 days since my bout with Enko, and my school life hasn't exactly gotten much different. We're still at orientation, going around the school, making sure we know where everything is, along with every single rule they managed to invent. There are lots. From the attitude of a few of the senior students though, half of them are hardly reinforced. That is, unless you have Chizuru-sensei. She's turned out to be the single most hated teacher ever, to the point where even other teachers avoid her. Why? Well, on top of very strictly reinforcing the rules, she also has a habit of verbally tearing someone down, in public, on the smallest of things. It often gets very personal. She's already made 2 kids cry, and we haven't even actually started classes yet. On top of that, Enko didn't take very kindly to being beaten in our fight, and has taken to glaring at me in class and trying to get her group tried to harass me at every point. They seem reluctant, and there haven't been any attempts yet, but it's still disconcerting having to constantly look out for myself in case something happens. So yeah, school hasn't exactly been great. Great. She sat down in the chair in front of me with a clipboard in her hand. Very convincing. She deadpanned. Now I'm just going to ask you a couple of yes or no questions, okay? Do try your best to try to answer them. She asked me seemingly random questions, like what's your favorite food, interlaced with more serious questions, like how would you describe your chakra, chocolate and a river delta of caterpillars, etc. I suppose the lighter questions are there to mask the actual questioning line, but what that line is? No idea. Good. Now for a physical. Stand up for me, please. We usually get physicals every other month or so as part of the whole kennel raising program, so this isn't really needed, checking the usual stuff like blood pressure, balance, and chakra levels. Good, good. Well, I think it's about time to meet the puppies. Are you excited? I stared at her. What does this woman want from me? Of course you are. Follow me. She led me down a corridor deeper into the building. Now that I think about it, there's an awful lot of random hallways connecting everything here. Probably for security, but some of them lead absolutely nowhere. At the very end of the building, we climbed down some stairs to come into a door heavily locked with seals. Yuumi spoke up. Hold on. This won't take long, she said as she started a series of hand seals. The seals on the door started glowing and the door opened up all dramatic-like. A blinding amount of light encompassed the narrow and dark corridor, smothering it entirely. When the light passed what appeared was a completely white room with dashes of orange and brown, adorned with a great many dog tools. In the corner there was a whelping box, where a great many tiny little white furballs surrounded a much bigger white furball. Yuumi ushered me inside with an expectant look. The mother, Chiyoko if I remember correctly, glared at me and started growling. Hesitating, I stopped and looked to Yuumi. Don't worry. Just let her smell you. Slowly, I approached Chiyoko and stuck out my hand. She started sniffing me, eyes still focused upon mine. Eventually, after more awkward staring, she seemed to give me a pass and gestured over to her pups. The puppies themselves, who were asleep up until now, woke and looked at me curiously. They all looked like more of a cross between a Shiba Inu and a koi wolf than a straight-up dog. Try picking one up. I did so, carefully taking the leftmost of the litter into my grasp. Now try to form a connection. I looked at her dubiously. She gave me another expectant look. Very helpful. Now how? I looked in its eyes, chocolate brown ones reflecting my face back to me. Subtly, very subtly I could feel my chakra reaching outward to his. A few seconds later, the connection suddenly broke off and he looked away, expressing a clear desire to be put back down again. Putting him down again, Yuumi reassured me. Don't worry, that's going to happen a lot. You'll know which is the right one when you sense it. I picked up another one, an eccentric female in the middle who looked very excited to try. Looking into her eyes, a darker brown this time, I tried to form the connection again. After about 30 seconds I gave up and put her back down again. The look on her face was heartbreaking. I tried this process with 2 more dogs, and no dice. The connection actually started with them, but still ended up breaking seconds later. Yuumi didn't look worried, so this must be a regular occurrence. It's your partner for life after all, so maybe that's warranted. The looks Chiyoko were sending me, though, told another story. After trying out the 5th one I noticed there was a puppy in the back who had already gone back to sleep. Slightly annoyed at the action, I picked it up perhaps a little more roughly than I was supposed to. Chiyoko growled, but Yuumi waved her off. That is, until she saw who I was holding. And maybe it's a good idea to try another one. Surely you'd like someone else, right? She said nervously. I raised an eyebrow. Why the change in attitude? Yuumi's trepidation didn't exactly do wonders for my hopes of this one succeeding, but I tried anyway. I looked into the puppy's eyes, a male, with red eyes. Okay then. It stared lazily back at me, then opened its eyes alarmingly wide, and instantly the connection I had been trying to form reached him. Where the previous connections were more like a string attached to both sides, this felt more like really thick rope, or steel bars or something. Strong, very, very strong. Looking into its eyes, I could see every fiber of its being, and I knew that it could see mine. Our red strings started intertwining and fastening to each other. Tightly. The sensation was unreal, being warped into someone else's psyche. Especially a dog's. I was surprised at the extent of it, considering he probably isn't older than 8 weeks. It was like Dormammu's dark dimension, but light everywhere instead and every flare of color representing something in his psyche. Abruptly, I was taken out, and thrown back in reality. He looked the way I was feeling, incredibly shaken by what just occurred. Next to us, Yuumi looked like she was caught mid-sentence, gaping at us with an expression like an ocelot jumped her. Well, I think we found a match, she said, recovering from whatever the heck she saw. So what now? I looked back at the dog. He looked back at me and lazily put his head on the hand that was holding him, falling asleep. Okay then. Well, we're going to keep him here for a few more days, and since you're a son of the clan head you'll have to wait for Heimaru to come and name him. He'll decide what you'll be doing after that. Who's Heimaru? I asked. You're Hisao-sama's son, and you don't know who Heimaru is? What do they teach you in those kennels? Nothing. She shook her head. Heimaru is one of the elders, part of the head family. Then why have I never seen him before? Normally it'd be done by your father, but he doesn't come in for another few days. Does that mean he's coming back soon? Yuumi furrowed her brow. You mean you didn't know? Do they tell you anything at all? I swear, these caretakers anyway. Yes, they're coming back in a few days. We've got word by Hawk that their outpost has been cleared and most of the ninja there will be sent back home. Which, naturally, includes your parents. I felt a well of hope swell in me. It was a welcome feeling. Tomo. Masato. Arata. Over here. Nobuyuki, the disgustingly cheerful head caretaker, called out to us. Sitting over at a distance, I watched the main group going through their stretch routine as two heads popped up at the mention of their names. They made eye contact, then walked over to where Nobuyuki was seated on the edge of the field. Over to his right, Shizuka was making faces at me. Do I really have to go? Yes, you do. But. Go. Just trust me. Go. Fine. With one last scowl in her direction, I solemnly walked over to join the rest. Honestly, sometimes I wish she'd just communicate more in words. Hey kids. I just got word that you all recently completed your compatibility tests. Are you excited? His face was consumed by the giant array of teeth he displayed from his mouth, which seemed to stretch beyond his face. The other two seemed a lot less disturbed with the sight than I was. Yeah. I'm gonna become the strongest ever, and then I'll become Hokage, and then I'll get. Nobuyuki looked down at them, smile not wavering in the least. Sure you will. Well, now that you've received your partners, you'll finally be starting on our clan techniques, so you'll be training apart from the rest. They burst into even louder cheers, to the delight of Nobuyuki. His canines started looking more and more vampiric. He glanced at me, and the smile lessened a bit, but came back full force at his next words. Because of that, you're also going to be getting individual training from now on. He gestured to three caretakers behind him, eagerly waiting for the charade to be over. One of which, I was very glad to note, was Shizuka. I tuned out the rest of his ahem disquisition and instead turned my thoughts to a much more relevant and important matter. Like, do fish see water? If they don't, can they see air? This will need serious investigation. Sadly, the internet isn't a thing here. It's probably antithesis to a ninja to have an almost unlimited amount of information able to be accessed by pretty much anyone. But still. Eventually the talk concluded and I was brought back into reality when everyone split up and Shizuka gestured for me. We moved to a corner of the field and Shizuka addressed me. So how much of that did you get? We're going to be working on the clan techniques with a personal instructor. She stared at me hopefully. And? Silence. She sighed. Fine. Let's begin. The technique I am about to teach you is dangerous and more difficult than anything you've done so far. You will not even think of attempting it without my direct supervision, because if it goes wrong, you might not be able to turn back. There have been cases anyway. The technique is called the ninja art of beast imitation, or more simply, the four legs technique. You've probably heard of it before. I nodded. I haven't seen Shizuka this serious before. Not even during the war. The jutsu requires a balance of sorts. As you know, the Inuzuka believe in two different sides of the mind. The feral and the civilized. The feral is mostly associated with instinct and primal urges. Behavior is orchestrated solely by the need to survive. The civilized is characterized mostly by rational and purposeful thinking. As humans, we in society constantly war against our feral sides, but with this technique, you're going to do the exact opposite and give yourself up to it. Well, not entirely. But just enough room for the changes to be able to be made. The balance is what matters. Once you get it right, and pump massive amounts of chakra through your body, you'll start transforming. Your canines will turn to fangs and your fingers and toenails grow to claws. Slightly unexpectedly, at the last bit her face took on a slightly feral sneer. It might indicate that use of the technique might affect the mind, seeing as you're messing with your balances and all. I just hope I won't get turned on by the smell of blood when I'm older. Along with the physical changes, there also comes a massive boost in speed, strength, and reflexes. That can get overwhelming at first, so be careful with that. So like Spider-Man? But Wolfie? Alright then. Let's start with the basics. Calling onto your feral side. This shouldn't be too hard. Once you've accessed it, it comes a lot easier, so you won't have to go through this process every time. Sit. I nodded. Now I want you to start meditation, but instead of clearing your mind or focusing on your chakra, I want you to delve into your mind. Seek out the parts you actively restrain, and loosen some of its chains. I sits. I sits longer. I sits some more. Nothing. I open an eye. Is it supposed to take this long? She frowned. It's not about how long you do it, It's the effort you put in. Try harder. Closing my eyes, I try again. Still nothing. Out in the distance, I hear other people shouting and celebrating. Seems like they got it then. Still nothing. I keep meditating, but nothing seems to want to come up. It must have been a good hour by now. Let's take a break for now, okay? I don't know which of us sighed louder. Pencils down. Pencils down. Good. Pass your test to the aisles. Loud sighs and the shifting of paper reverberated through the classroom. For the past few days, we've been taking test after test, some practical, others written or theory. Having suspicions of what it was for, I avoided taking it too seriously. After being dismissed for lunch, I sat back down at my usual spot, followed by a talking Bakken with legs. How do you think you did? 'Cause some questions tripped me over pretty badly, like question 24, and I had no idea what to do for 43 or 17, and those all had nothing to do with each other, so I might have. I tuned him out. I've been doing that a lot recently. Him sitting here with me, not actually talking more than ranting at me, is now established as routine. To my great enjoyment, naturally. Sometimes I listen in, just to break up the monotony. My life, for all the ninja shenanigans, is rather boring, huh? I swear those kunai were weighted wrong. Then again, that might have been my balance, but then, oh. Something must have happened. He usually doesn't stop talking until just before the bell when he remembers his food again. I snapped back to reality. Luckily, gravity stayed with me. Some Inuzuka girl was peering down at me from where I was sitting. I think her name was Tomo. What are you still doing here? She asked. Her wild lion's mane she calls hair almost seemed to point to me like Saban. It seemed she left her group behind, going by the looks they're sending me. That's either foolish or a bold statement of intent. Or both. Probably both. Sitting. Eating. You. She sneered. I mean, still in the academy. You don't belong here. According to? To everyone. You're supposed to be an Inuzuka. But all I see you do is sit around. And I've heard them talking. The rest don't think you belong either. I've been expecting this for a while, but to hear it from her still hurt. And who are the rest supposed to be? She lifted her chin and sneered down at me, smug written all over her face. The caretakers. Duh. None of them really want you. They just put up with you because they have to. Incensed, I abruptly stood up, knocking over the remainder of my food, and looked her right in the eye. Uncomfortably close to her face, she faltered slightly, but remained resolute in her sneer. And what would you know? I whispered. Enough to know. She whispered back, equally viciously. Know what? Her voice so low I had to use my Inuzuka senses to hear her. That the reason your parents aren't back yet is because they don't want to deal with you. Irate, I growled, my fingers coming closer and closer to her throat. Is there a problem here? Suddenly, Chizuru-sensei was right next to us, her glasses obscuring her eyes. Somehow that made her more terrifying. Tomo backed off quickly, her gaze following both me and Chizuru-sensei. She sneered once more and stalked off. Chizuru-sensei faced me. She spoke slowly. This is the second time I have absolved your discrepancies. As the common denominator, I expect for you to take steps to make sure it does not happen again. Anger rising in me again, I opened up my mouth to respond. As if sensing this, she body flickered back to wherever she came from before any words came out. Exasperated, I ignored Hayama and my lunch and walked back to the classroom, trying very hard to keep from stomping. And then she just stalked off. Can you believe that? Back at the compound for dinner, Shizuka and I were sitting next to each other in a corner of the field. My food was abandoned. She gave me a contemplating expression. Come with me. She put her food to the side and stood up, walking off without looking to see if I followed. I did. She took me back inside, through a long number of corridors. We have way too many of these, it's obscene. Eventually we came up to a complex with doors in every hallway, similar to a hotel, though with a much less friendly atmosphere, giving off more of a Spartan feeling. I mean, fully gray hallways. Guys. Briskly walking up to one of the doors, she put her hand to it, and a seal on the door activated. It lit up for a second, then opened. The room inside looked more like a dorm room, and thankfully not gray, but more of a faded white. Yes, that's a thing. Clothes and scrolls haphazardly thrown around, and an incredibly disorganized bed next to a single chair. She pushed away the chair and gestured for me to sit on the floor. Try the meditation again. Don't think about anything but that feeling when she challenged you. But instead of repressing it, let it go. Try it. Incredulous, I just look at her for a while before sitting down to meditate. Closing my eyes, it was easy for me to call back the memory, and it was like it happened all over again. I put my hands to the tiger seal. I just don't get it. I don't care if she's barely out of the womb. Saying such a thing to anyone is a horrible thing to do no matter what their status is. I just don't understand how. Wait. Stop. I can't know. Why should I stop? She tried to undermine me. She's deliberately trying to play power games with me right now. It doesn't matter if she learned how to count just a year ago. If she's trying to play the adult, she'll get burned as one. Deep inside my chakra system, I felt something snap. Like chains hacked apart with an especially sharp axe. Like the decisive clap of fireworks at the end of a show. Like it unleashed something. It surged, sharp and agitated, ripping through my system. Okay. That's good. Now, focus on that feeling and spread it. All throughout your body. Remember. Balance. Complying, I forced the chakra to my will and tried spreading it. I could feel it changing me, could feel my nails lengthening, my eyes and nose sharpening, my thoughts speeding up with a nearly brutal amount of adrenaline rushing through me. Once it settled, the feeling was almost natural. A constant state of battle readiness. At the same time, though, I could feel it draining my chakra. And since I'm 5, I probably can't sustain this for more than a minute. You can open your eyes now. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was Shizuka's face beaming at me. I slowly canceled the jutsu, watching my claws turn back into fingernails. There's something mesmerizing about being able to see the changes you made to yourself. Congratulations. You've successfully learned the 4 legs technique. Achievement get. Just kidding. I smiled at her. Now, are you gonna tell me what's really wrong? My breath caught. Since when was Shizuka perceptive? It's fairly obvious I'm not exactly liked around here. And so far the only reason why they haven't kicked me out, or anything, is because I'm the son of the head. She nodded her head, and sat a little closer to my side. And it's not like I really care about being one, but to know that the only thing keeping me from being thrown out is my parents' love for me, well, it's hard to see that when they're not actually there. And I can't really blame them for it. Realistically, I know I shouldn't think like that, but that doesn't really stop me from worrying. I just feel like I'm in a constant state of limbo. Having difficulty with the 4 legs technique didn't help much with that. By the time I finished speaking, I was sitting in Shizuka's lap, my back to her and looking down. She took a little time to pick her words. You know, your parents send me mail by Hawk a lot. Every week, actually. Every single time, they ask about you. How is his education going? Is he sleeping and eating well? Is he liking the academy? Basic questions. But they ask for very detailed responses. It's obvious they care, even if they don't often show it. A hopeful twinge surged up in me, but was then quickly and brutally suppressed by doubt. Then why don't they send me anything? She tilted her head, her long hair, which she kept in a ponytail, swept around to gently hit my face. People are complicated. Your parents especially so. Oftentimes people forget that you're only 5, because you act so much more than that. They're worried about how you would respond, and more than anything, they're afraid of rejection. Out there in the blood and the fire, and the murder, there are only very few things you think about. Yourself, what you're fighting, who you're fighting with, and why you're fighting. I think that their reason as to why is to live long enough to see the next generation grow up. Which, in this case, means you. War is very good at seeding negative emotions in you. Fear being chief among them. They're scared, sweetie. Scared that whatever's holding them up over there will collapse. I couldn't think of anything to respond to that. So I just stayed quiet and mulled it over, burying myself deeper into Shizuka. I still don't understand. Soon you will, she said solemnly. Shizuka POV. I wonder what they're trying to convey, staring at each other like that. I've been alternating doing paperwork and watching them for about half an hour now, and they haven't moved an inch. Should I be worried? Call someone maybe? Oh. He smiled. How nice. He doesn't do that very often, which is something I've been trying to fix for a while now. 3 years, actually. From what I've been told, even as a baby he was stoic. Used to freak Yunisama out a lot, worrying if she did something wrong. Most of the caretakers avoid him after they caught him flipping the bird to one of the other kids when he was about a year old. Considering the kid just pushed him off a log and the expression on his face, it was far from an accident. He shows a badly hidden superior intellect compared to the rest of the children, but he seems average in everything else, so he's not exactly the new Kakashi or anything. That, if anything, is what really started the exclusion more than anything else. Weird, but not in a beneficial way, so useless. To them, anyway. A genius is what the Inuzuka have been dearly craving for, especially recently. Within the talent-infested Leaf, we've been falling behind a bit in terms of individual strength among our clan. Most of our jounin are in recon or tracking, and less in ambush squads lately, and our stature among the rest of the clans is suffering. The elders aren't exactly happy with the arrangement, so they've been changing up the curriculum in the kennels, making it more militaristic. Funnily enough, that's why I, a retired field ninja, am here in the first place taking care of small children. Usually a caretaker is a lifetime job assigned by the head after you've been in an internal job for a while, which means most caretakers come from the veterinarian division or the farmer's sector. Since most people in those fields came straight from the academy, they have little to no actual combat experience. The answer? Introduce actual ninja to the system. Which means me. I and a few others come from the front line of the Second War, the majority too injured to keep up anymore. Me? I just got tired. Tired of the animosity, anger, fear, hate, doubt, death. When I heard there was a vacancy, and that I'd be excused, I went immediately. My team already died a year before that, and with my partner's blood at my feet, I considered it a done deal already. I felt a little out of depth, coming here and going through the training and all. Then to my surprise there was someone out here who was just as uncomfortable, but it wasn't a caretaker. It was one of the kids. Since I saw him curled up on his own at the very edge of the field and away from the others, I knew I had to go to him. He already seemed capable of complex, if clumsy speech and was a little rude to me at the beginning, but we got along swimmingly after that. The other caretakers, seeing me talking to him, immediately decided that he was going to be my responsibility, and so everything related to him individually was then turned to me, the newbie. Had a field job with that at first, and then having to deal with his parents, which are the freaking headsnillis. Well, Wait, where was I? Oh yeah, Arida and his Niken. His Niken, by tradition named Shiramaru, is sitting in his lap, staring at him. Arida, who I've never seen so focused on anything before, seems to have blocked out the whole world and has entirely concentrated himself on meeting the stare. It'd be funny if they hadn't been doing it for so long. I'm starting to get worried. Hey Arida? What are you doing? His gaze snapped over to me, wide-eyed shock communicating that he didn't realize I was there. He must have really lost himself then, considering we're in my room. Not much. That's the problem. I gestured to him with the universal motion for go on. We're trying to do telepathy, but it's not going all that well. So far, I'm only really getting fragments. I stopped dead. Telepathy? Already? At their ages? You do know that's an advanced skill? Not many can do more than sending out base emotions. This speaks volumes about the kind of partner he has as well. Able to form coherent enough thoughts for telepathy when it's barely 2 months old. He frowns at that. Huh. Makes sense, I guess. He turned to his partner. Did you know that? Shiramaru just does the equivalent of a shrug. At that moment I hear a knock at the door, loud and impatient. I stood up and opened the door, finding an impatient-looking Chunin to match. He was giving Arita nasty looks. They're here. At the entrance. I nodded at him, and he body flickered out. Bitch. I looked back at Arita, finding a hint of trepidation in his eyes. Just go. You can figure out the rest. He grimaced, but went anyway. Walking side to side through the corridors we were quiet, Arata's partner balanced on top of his head. This is the first time Arata's been nervous about people, and the expression on his face is a bad example of trying to hide those emotions. I almost wanted to laugh. Once we came close to the entrance hall of the compound, we could hear familiar-sounding voices along with laughter. They were here all right. Arita almost stopped, but went on anyway, slower now. I rolled my eyes at him. Opening the large double doors leading to the entrance field, we slowly walked in and all conversation dropped. They were sitting at a small terrace at the side, talking to Hisao-sama's younger sister, Rika-sama, who had been doing the head's duties while he was out. Their Niken were lying at their feet. They just stared at each other for an uncomfortably long time. That was until, on some unspoken signal, both parents raced out of their seat and tackle-hugged Arita to the ground. Shiramaru let out a loud whimper and ran to my side, hiding behind my legs. When did you grow so big? It must have been so hard and wasn't there for you and I can't. I'm so glad you're okay and that I can hugila kethis and I just wish I could have been hariso. Arita was stunned. Trying to reboot, he eventually let relief settle in. His eyes softened, and they fell to the mess that was his parents. Dealing with the two of them is a work and a half when they get like this. I hope he's ready for it. Arita POV. Let me see you do a hunter's kick. I got into a ready stance, sharply gazed at the training dummy in front of me, and pushed chakra into my legs. My body leaped about 1.5 meters into the sky and I twisted my body so my legs struck where my head was, resulting in 2 hard kicks to the training dummy's head. If you hadn't guessed, a hunter's kick is basically a more practical version of a butterfly kick. I landed on my feet a little awkwardly to sarcastic applause from Shizuka, who was sitting in a lounge chair in the back. I bowed to add to the act. My dad looked at me appraisingly, a small glint in his eye. A few dozen yards away, Mom and some were sparring. Well, when I say that I mean they were launching deadly techniques at each other without actually killing each other. Fun. Good job. But don't forget that it's not enough to twist for the kick. You have to follow through with your legs. Try it again. I got back into a ready stance. My hands and claws placed next to each other about a foot from my chest. My legs bent, left foot in front of the right, and back bent about 30 degrees. It's been a few weeks since my parents came back, and I'm not ashamed to say they've been the best few weeks of my new life. It's nice to have adults besides Shizuka around who don't try their hardest to ignore you. Not only that, they've been actively engaged in my life now, taking me out to places around Konoha and personally training me. Like now. They've been teaching the basic Inuzuka taijutsu, creatively called the Inuzuka style. It's actually kind of fun. The style relies on quick hit and run type tactics, throwing everything into power and speed and almost completely ignoring defense. In summary, lots of leaping and clawing. Well, the basics anyway. It branches out into different sub-styles, like the dingo style or the many wolf styles. Right now I'm working on the coyote style, which involves the legs a lot more than most of the other styles. It's a bit similar to the way Black Panther fights in Civil War. So yeah, it's pretty cool, and with their fairly lax instruction I've been having a blast learning it. Trying the move again, I put chakra back into my legs and jumped, then twisted. This time making sure I actively kicked the dummy. I did, but ended up falling in an undignified heap on the ground. Great. I could hear Shizuka snickering in the background. I'll get her back for it eventually. My dad's sweat dropped. I could physically see the little droplet going down his face, and help me up. Make sure you follow all the way through. Like most moves in the Inuzuka style, you have to have no hesitation to make it work, he said, a small smile on his face. Alright. Let me try again. I moved to stand up, getting ready for another shot, a face full of Mom crashing into me. They've been doing this a lot. About 5 times a day minimum. Maybe it's a thing of theirs or an Inuzuka thing, I don't know. I'm starting to get bruises. So does Tsune's ass need some salve now, or is she good? I asked. She chuckled. No, it was a draw actually. She's catching up nicely. I made a surprised sound. Both of my parents have been jounin for a long time after all, and Tsume's just been promoted to jounin last month. Tsume walked up. Never mind that, Squirt. How's your training going? She countered. Meh. Dad's been teaching me the coyote style. I could feel the temperature drop by several degrees. There was a meaningful pause. Tsume faced Dad, harsh scowl on her face. You've been what? Dad adopted a serious face, one I only saw him use at the monthly leaders meeting he took me to once. One who could only be described by one word. Alpha. Unbending and fierce. Tsume's got a long way to go. He spoke, voice exuding gravitas. I have been teaching him what aligns to his talents, body structure, and personality. In alignment with what we have always done in the clan, and will continue to do. Tsume backed off a little and sent a worried glance to me. And the associations. Dad eased up a little. It doesn't matter. If anything, this'll be good for the clan. Tsume sighed, then glared at Dad again. Prove it then. Dad glared right back again. Shizuka, who had been silently watching the whole ordeal, jumped up suddenly. Yes, sir? I want you to spar with Arita. He turned to address me. To make it a bit more balanced, you're going to be using the 4 legs technique while using the coyote style. Now go. Exchanging looks with Shizuka, I detached myself from Mom and went over to the field where Mom and Tsume were sparring earlier. Wisely not mentioning that I've only been learning the coyote style for 2 weeks now, we squared up. After bearing the seal of confrontation, Shizuka assumed a peculiar stance. Legs straight with about 20 centimeters of space between them. Claws facing away from each other, and arms spread wide to the north and south. A bit like the starting position for the passing Fang. The Dole style then. Notable for its use of acrobatics and wide turning motions. I brought my hands together in the tiger seal and silently activated the 4 legs technique. As I felt the initial high wear off, I nodded at Shizuka to start. And that she did. She raced forward so fast I barely saw her legs move. The body flicker. Real fights are a lot different than what they're portrayed as in the Naruto show. There's a lot less talking and time to think. Just time to do. That means strategizing needs to be done on the fly and in seconds. Some rules I've been taught. Never let your guard down at whatever point in the battle until you're absolutely sure all threats have been eliminated. Think 3 moves ahead. No ninja in their right mind, not even Naruto, has their opening move be anything but a distraction or misdirection to set up for something else. Get a feel for your opponent's potential weaknesses while making sure you're not locked into just one attacking pattern. These and other rules you have to keep in mind and train into you until they become intrinsic, and everything you do is a combination of instinct, habit, and strategy. Sort of like an autopilot, but not really. The best example I could give would be kunai deflection. You have to train until you don't even think about it anymore, and you deflect them on instinct, because if you don't, you'll suddenly find yourself to be a very wet pin cushion. Naturally, I'm nowhere near that point yet, so when Shizuka practically flew to my position, I blanked out for a second. Right up until I had the presence of mind to dodge the spinning kick that came for my face. She's not pulling punches. Or kicks in this case. I dodged by turning to the left just so and sent a claw to her face, which she dodged by bending backwards into a handstand. The handstand left her legs in the air, close to my face. Wanting absolutely nothing to do with that, I jumped back in a hasty retreat. Shizuka, now back on her feet, raced towards me again, this time in a turning motion with her left claw coming down diagonally across my face, which I blocked with my right claw. Shizuka is taller and stronger than me, so even disregarding the 4 legs technique, she put me off balance, and the block made my body turn towards the right. Seeing the perfect opportunity, one raised my left leg and kicked, targeting her face again. She wasn't having it though. As she turned into my block, she changed her center of gravity so it barely clipped her shoulder instead. Because of Shizuka's height, I had to come up into the air for the kick, and that made me vulnerable. A fact that Shizuka had no problem capitalizing on. Sending a bicycle kick to my behind, I flew and stumbled for a landing where Shizuka started the fight. Alright. New plan. The Kyuubi style relies on me being the one on the offensive, so let's start there. I pushed more chakra through my body, involuntarily letting out a snarl, and leaped for Shizuka. This time I opted for a tornado kick, which she turned away from, not accounting for a stray claw coming at her chest. It didn't hit all that well, only getting her clothes, which shredded in the classical scratch pattern. She backed away. Deciding fuck it. Why not? In my head, I tried a hunter's kick once my feet came back on the ground. She dodged that as well. Turning back to her, I leapt, and made my claws come down in a crossing motion. She blocked it with her own claws and need my chin to knock me away and back again. Ow. Alright, that's enough. My dad called out. I let the 4 legs technique simmer out. Whoa. Okay, I was not ready for that. The massive drain that hit my body afterwards felt like my entire body just decided to be sucked, bent, and then expanded all at the same time. I plopped down on my butt. I probably won't be able to move for the rest of the day. Maybe I shouldn't have increased the chakra output midway through. Shizuka walked up to me, and aside from her ripped clothes, looked just like she did when she was relaxing on her lounge chair. I glared weakly at her as we made the seal of reconciliation. Since I couldn't stand up, she lifted me up and carried me instead. Like a toddler. You know I'm in the academy now, right? She gave me one of her smug smiles. I sighed, giving it up as a lost cause. You were playing games with me. You could have taken me out at least thrice through the entire spar. Her smile widened. I refrained from the choice words I wanted to say. They likely wouldn't translate over well anyway. As we made our way back to the rest of my family, some looked a little annoyed, and a similarly smug smile to Shizuka's was on my dad's face. Mom looked absent. She was staring at us, but not wholly there. Dad faced some. And? She made a derisive snort. Alright, fine. But at least tell him. Dad looked around at the training field. This is one of the smaller ones in the compound, and it doesn't have much in the way of equipment either, so it isn't used very often. Anyone that was probably there left already, so I don't know why he's bothering to look around now. Not here. He walked over to the gates of the training field and gestured for us to follow. I don't really think about it all that often, since I only see maybe 3 parts of it, but the Inuzuka compound is huge. The only parts one really only see are the kennels, Shizuka's place, and the entrance. I've been to other places a few times, like the clinic for Shiramaru, but there's a hell of a lot more in this place than I thought. We made our way over to what I think is the center of the compound, looking at a rather large traditional Japanese-styled home. Very different from the kennels and the apartments on the outskirts. Is this the so-called upstate living? Maybe it's a hierarchy thing. Meh, they'll teach me later. Walking in, after dealing with the security seals, we found Shiramaru and my mom's partner, a kind brown-haired jackal-looking dog named Hanako, lounging around together. Okay. officially confused now. Once they saw us coming in and taking our sandals off, Hanako came over to greet us. Shiramaru just yawned in our direction. Where are we? I looked over to my parents for answers. They looked a little sad at my question. We're at the head's home. Our home, Mom said. Oh. It's nice, I said lamely. Some laughed. You've barely seen it yet. I was too tired to deign her with a response, so I just stuck my tongue out at her, to which she grinned ferally. What? I'm 5. Still well within my maturity ranges here, thank you very much. Dad gestured for our little procession to walk further in, since we were kinda just standing around. The rest of the house was just like I thought. Japanese traditional, but with a little more of an unexpected red accent. We don't really have an official color, but maybe it's supposed to represent our red tattoos. Who knows? Once we were nicely seated in the living room with some tea, me in Shizuka's lap for support, Mom got started. About 40 or so years ago, around the creation of the village, there was a man named Tadao. An aloof, S-ranked Inuzuka notable for his mastery of the Kyuubi style, and his equally strong red-eyed partner. Sounds horribly familiar. I gave them a non-amused glance. They of course ignored it. Now this man was sent on a missive to a newly formed hidden cloud for treaty negotiations. The village was aware of his strength, so they sent him and his Niken out alone, thinking it would seem less aggressive. One thing led to another, and negotiations broke down. A fight broke out which involved many hidden cloud Nin. Outnumbered, they tried to escape, but couldn't. The red-eyed Niken died in the fighting to give Tadao time to escape. Tadao came back, broken and angry. He blamed his partner's death on the village, telling them that only sending them out was foolish and that they should have expected an attack. The village turned a deaf ear on him. For what could they do but acknowledge their mistake and move on? But Tadao wanted more, and the dismissal from the village angered him. He stopped receiving missions and instead went underground, citing that he retired because of an injury he sustained from the escape. In reality, he donned a mask and went to the streets of Konoha at night and started killing. All of his victims were spending time with their most precious person when he killed them. Only the one person, so the other could feel the pain of their separation. Then after he was done with the act, he used the blood of his victims and painted the nearest solid surface, forming red piercing eyes. This went on until he was caught by the first Hokage himself, when he tried to enter the Senju compound. He was publicly executed. The silence was smothering. What I could even say to such a story? Mom continued, absent-mindedly stroking Hanako. The clan spent a long time recovering from our tarnished reputation. And now they're worried. Seeing the same characteristics in you as they did in him is making them nervous. That Shiramaru has red eyes and now your coyote style. Well, it's not helping your case. I was quiet for a long time. Well, that was until a wave of lethargy hit me and I loudly yawned. Damn. They all snickered a little, and I tried to hide my face in Shizuka's long brown hair. It didn't go very well, and they snickered louder. Tension slightly broken, they focused their attention back on me again. I could feel my eyes drooping. Well, it would explain a lot. But honestly, they can talk all they want. I have you guys, so who cares what the others think? A stronger wave of lethargy hit me and I closed my eyes. If they want to hate me for existing, then that's their problem. Shizuka POV. He was asleep. Of course, the most dramatic thing I've heard him say comes right before he goes to sleep. I'm not even surprised. That was certainly interesting. Did you teach him that, Shizuka? Hisao-sama asked. He dropped his whole alpha aura, which I'm kinda glad for. It's a little terrifying. No. This is all him. Yuna-sama was both looking at me and Erida, her expression pinched. I resisted the urge to roll my eyes and lifted Erida into her hands. You would think he was made of glass, the way she held him. Sim-sama abruptly stood up. Well, it's been lovely. But I'm pretty sure Haruo's waiting for me. She waved by and walked out. Once she got to the door, Hisao-sama called out. Make sure the scent blockers are on. Sim didn't even turn around, just flipped the bird and left. I wonder if it's a family thing. After the slightly vulgar interruption, silence once again came upon us. Then I remembered the paperwork I still had to do. I stood to leave, watching them apprehensively. He still doesn't have his markings yet, I said. He technically can't sleep outside the kennels till maturity. The elders don't need to know. It's not like they acknowledge he exists anyways. Yuna-sama responded. Can't argue with that. And with a small bow, I made my way out, leaving Erida, for the first time, with his family. I woke up in a bed, which was new. Next to me on either sides were my parents, both of them already awake and watching me. Rise and shine, pup. Academy's waiting. Dad said. I rose up and checked my connection to Shiramaru to see if he was in the area. I found him lying on an enormous dog bed at the side, probably meant for Hanako and Amaru, my mom and Dad's partners. Bathrooms in the left side of the hallway going out, Mom said before she rose out of bed and out the door, Dad following her. I wonder why there's a bed in a house this traditional. Well, I can't deny it's comfy, so that's a plus. I turned to Shiramaru and linked telepathically to him. No. Awake. Need? Yes, need. But bed comfy. But responsibility. Need because society. Ugh. No. Shizuka become when? When responsibility. Now up. Fine. Shiramaru lazily lifted himself up, eyes closed the whole time, and sauntered over to me, who was already out the door. We went through a quick bathing routine, by which I mean I washed him cause he was too lazy to himself, and went down to join my parents and their partners for breakfast. Breakfast was a quiet but amiable affair. After cleaning up, they told me they would bring me to the kennel to walk to the academy with the rest. I assured them it wasn't needed. If Shizuka wasn't walking us, I generally didn't come along as a general thing, so they solemnly agreed to just let me saunter over myself. I did notice their scent following me most of the way to the academy, which means they most likely weren't hiding it. Honestly, those two. Arriving at the school, I took a glance at the rankings that recently came out. They're nothing really concrete, especially this early on, but you can already see lines forming, especially regarding last names. In my year I'm 9th, which is near the top. My physical scores were nothing special for an Inuzuka, but my written scores were way higher than anticipated on the last test we took. Turns out a lot of the questions weren't meant to be correctly answered by 5-year-olds. Whoops. Che. Don't know why you're bothering to look in the first place. They don't really mean anything anyway. An annoyingly familiar voice said from behind me. It was Tomo with her white-haired partner, Mariko. Right. And that doesn't have anything to do with your ranking, right? There was a notable absence of the Inuzuka name in the top 15 compared to the rest of the big clans. The only other name there at 7th is Inuzuka Masato. Humph. Of course not. I'm better than you. And everyone knows that already, so what's written there is clearly a lie. Wow. So childish. On account of whom? Your parents? Poor kid. Feeding you all these lies. Her partner next to her started growling. Mine was on my head, probably asleep. And no. My parents are the best in the world. They gave me my own kunai set when I got Mariko. What, parents a sensitive topic? Oh. Very impressive. If we're done here with that, I briskly walked away from the rankings board. Yeah, right. She dashed back in front of me, insolent face mirrored by her Niken next to her. Just because you have some stupid ranking doesn't mean you're better than me. Why is this kid still bothering me? Do you not get bored? I crossed my arms. Oh yeah? Then prove it. If you can show me a way in which you are by some miracle better than me, then say it now. Class is starting soon and you're in the way. She stayed quiet, head down. Well? I'm waiting. More quiet. I gave it up as a lost cause and walked away. Just when I got to her shoulder, I heard her voice utter one single word. Hunt. I stopped dead. 2 years from now. You and me face off. You're crazy. The hunt is an annual age-old Inuzuka tradition that's sort of like a rite of passage. Put simply, you're dropped in a deadly forest worse than Training Ground 44, where you're meant to catch one single worthy prey and bring it back to the clan. Without your partner. Problem is that most worthy prey is usually a predator. One much bigger, stronger and faster than you. The hunt is taken as a sort of placement test to see what your position in the clan will be. If you succeed, you gain the famous red markings on your cheeks. If you don't, and you didn't die, then you get foisted off into the non-ninja areas of the clan like the farming sector. Naturally, those who aren't fit to be ninja are generally discouraged from trying, and because of the risks, most children opt to take part just before they turn genin. The thing is, what Tomo is suggesting is that we take it minimum 2 years earlier than usual. It's the equivalent of a latter-stage academy student taking the Chunin exams. Although not impossible, it's a stupid idea nonetheless. Not only that, she's suggesting we compete against each other. While there aren't real winners and losers depending on the prey you bring back, it can affect the size and thickness of your markings, which is of course a huge status symbol. Sim, for example, is sort of a celebrity within the clan for having the largest markings in almost a century. The problem is that taking it earlier won't grant you significant boosts to size or thickness, so it just ends up making it harder on yourself for meager returns. Still, it is a massive statement of intent to take it early. And why would I agree to such a thing? I asked, dimly aware that the minute bell just rang. Are you afraid of me showing you up? Far from. I just don't feel like attending your funeral. She clicked her tongue. I don't care. I'm going to do it, and when everyone sees my fangs way before you, they'll realize they were looking at the wrong person all along. The heck's that supposed to mean? She walked away, not looking at me. Mariko stayed for a while to give me one last stink eye, then followed her. All right then. I sat down in my usual seat at the back just before the bell rang. Honestly, what is the girl thinking? Her last sentence would imply that there's people in the clan that don't look at me like unwashed laundry. But that's basically impossible with Shiramaru's eyes thrown into the mix. I sat there contemplating, paying just enough attention for attendance and Aisatsu. Once we got to math, I completely stopped paying attention. Not that I needed to. Hey, can I borrow a pencil? Your typical aspiring village boy next to me asked. Bright brown eyes with simple short brown hair, mostly covered by the fishing hat he wore. He looked a little like Inari if I was being honest. Why? Did you forget yours? I whispered back, sending him a strong look. Ikaka-sensei, while not as strict as Chizuru-sensei, is still a stickler for rules. He's the kind of teacher that throws chalk at people's heads. No thank you? He rubbed the back of his head with a sheepish expression. Sorry. My friends and I were playing ninja and I had my pencil, but it was in my pocket, and then it broke. He half-whispered, half-talked back. Oh, children. Guys. Stop talking. You're distracting me from my work. The boy on the other side of me murmured. This one was practically the opposite of aspiring village boy. Black hair tied up in a small ponytail with striking black eyes to match it. He had Uchiha symbols plastered on every part of his clothing, and to finish it off, a small red and white earring attached to his right ear. Hey! Screw you! I just needed a pencil, village boy said in his half-whisper. Uchiha boy clicked his tongue. Che! Here! He flicked his wrist, and suddenly there was a pencil stuck in the middle of village boy's part of the desk. Uchiha boy smirked smugly at village boy's baffled look. I held in a snort. Good job. You can throw things. Very impressive. He sent me a supposed warning look, but it didn't have a real impact coming from a 5 or 6-year-old. You should know that I'm genin level at Bukijutsu. Nei-san told me so. She knows everything. And we care because? He sent me another ineffective warning look, but went back to his work. Class went on as normal after that. Being stumped out of my train of thought about Tomo instead led me to my new classmates. We don't really have assigned seating, but people naturally form groups and cliques anyway, leaving guys like me alone. What's strange was that they were here sitting next to me and not off with groups they clearly belonged to. After we got released for lunch, I stalked off to my usual spot when village boy came up to me. Hey! What's your name? Alright then. Inuzuka Arata. I stared at him for a while. The silence stretched. Oh. My name's Kuta. I don't have a fancy last name like yours though. I wish. Could you see it? Hiro Kuta. 4th Hokage. I smiled. He filled his stereotype so well. We'll see about that, Hiro. He sent me a challenging look. You think you're going to be 4th Hokage? Not a chance. Well, no duh. Although the name Yellow Flash hasn't really appeared yet, there's plenty of rumors about Jiraiya's yellow-haired student out there. Some already suspect him to eventually surpass the Sannin. We'll see, Hiro. For all we know, it'll be Chizuru-sensei. We both shivered. I didn't even want to imagine what the leaf would look like under Chizuru-sensei. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you for standing up for me against that jerk Tetsuo. I did. You're welcome? He seemed satisfied with that, flashing me a grin so big you could barely see his eyes. Well, see you later, Arata. I gotta go meet up with my friends. He ran off after that, leaving me to stumble over to my usual spot. Hayama was already there, sending me confused looks. You can talk? I sat down and opened up my lunch. Well, yeah. You've seen me do it before, no? Sending him his same look back. Seriously? No. He got annoyingly loud this time. People were staring. Look. Why don't you just go back to talking about kunai trajectories? You were mentioning the crow's maneuver last time? He stood up abruptly, dropping his food onto the ground. You were listening. Yup, people were definitely staring now. Yeah, I was. Can you quiet down now, please? He, just as abruptly as he stood up, sat back down. There was almost no transition. Just a flop to the ground. Why didn't you say anything? He said, trying to salvage some food from the ground. Talking while eating is hard. And you seem to enjoy talking on your own, so I shrugged. So you just bate awa. He took his bakken off his back and swung it around a little. Almost cartoon-like? No, exactly like a cartoon. Look, if I share my food with you, are you gonna calm down? He looked back at me mid-swing, big doe eyes pleading. Will you talk to me then? Sure, I agreed. He instantly cheered up and went to normal again. After that we ate and discussed some more about Bukijutsu. It seemed to be the day for it. He seemed to ramble even more heavily now that I was actually responding, which shouldn't be possible. But hey, this is the Naruto universe. Technically anything's possible. Honestly, children are such a hassle. When I got back to the compound, 5 minutes before the others, I noticed Shizuka at the gate, probably waiting for me. Hey. I just wanted to tell you I'm going on a vacation starting today. So you'll be on your own at the kennel for a while. I frowned. Ninja don't really get much in the way of vacation. Instead, they have downtime between missions, which really isn't much if you want to stay afloat economically. The fact that she got a vacation is most likely because she's not on the village mission roster, or that she's going to do something she just doesn't want to tell me about. Could be both. It's probably both. How long will you be gone? She seemed to be very interested in the tree behind me all of a sudden. 2-3 weeks? A month maybe? I tried hard to keep my mouth from dropping. What? A whole month without Shizuka? How am I gonna survive for that long? She winced, then ducked down to be at eye level with me. Look. I know you can do it already. You're 5 years old now. Plus, I asked Samsama to train you while I'm gone. So you'll be having both your parents and your big sister there. Is that good enough? Well, no. I'd still have to deal with the caretakers, this time without a buffer. But whatever she was planning on doing, she weighed against leaving me here. It must be pretty big. I bit on my cheek. Fine. But only if you bring me takoyaki from wherever you're going. She smiled fondly at me. Good. Now give me my sappy hug, she said, holding out her arms. I rolled my eyes and just sort of deposited myself on her, and she folded her arms around me. I got rewarded with 20 seconds of restricted air pipe. She gave me one last look. This one filled with emotions I couldn't even try to guess, then body flickered away. Should I prepare something for when she gets back? That seemed significant. Maybe I should leave some food for her too. Or a first aid kit. A food first aid kit. Perfect. Everything sucks. It's barely been a day and they've already forgotten to give me dinner. You know how awkward it is to approach your caretakers and kindly ask if they would mind giving me some sustenance? I mean, come on. There's also no one but Shiramaru to talk to now. Everyone avoids me. Even the recently born Niken. Shiramaru also isn't the greatest partner in that regard, as he's sitting through the kennel classes. I've considered just going out, but they probably wouldn't remember to keep the gate open if I did. Finally, around 4 some casually barged in and took me out of the place. She picked me up by my shirt and body flickered to a nearby empty training ground. Oh, thank Cammy. Thank you so much. She put me down rather roughly. By which I mean she dropped me. What's wrong, kid? Can't handle the kennels without Shizuka in it? I gave her a serious stare. Is she seriously asking me that right now? You know what? Fine. I'll go easy on her. They served taiyaki as dessert. And didn't give me any. Some looked like I'd tossed her. I understand. Now what we do about it? Good question. There are several ways I could go about this. 1. Cause a political shitstorm through Dad. He knows there is some bias towards me, but Shizuka and I haven't exactly told him towards what extent yet, fearing the reaction. 2. I could just live at the clan head's house. Not like many would want to notice. Then again, that could cause another political shitstorm. 3. Fucking shit. Do I really have to do this? Was this planned? There is no way this wasn't planned. Fuck it. Might as well. It's the fastest non-political one. Sim, I need you to train me for the hunt in 2 years. She opened her mouth, then closed it in her offended expression. I need to what? Kid, you can barely hold the 4 legs for 2 minutes, let alone 2 hours. You're crazy. My reaction exactly. Now you see, I told her about Tomo and her challenge, with the suspicious departure of Shizuka right after. You think you're being forced out of the kennels? She asked incredulously. Or worse. There was a moment of silence, both of us deciding not to think of that as a possibility. Please don't tell Dad. Alright, fine. I'll train you. But you owe me massively. I grinned. Then let's get started. Honestly, people are just then again, some of them aren't that bad. Some of them. Have I mentioned cardio sucks? If not, let me say it again. Cardio can walk through an endless path of hellfire where the flames get hotter the further you walk in a never-ending cycle of ever more increasing pain. Ugh. I lay face down on the dirt, arms and legs spread like a snow angel. Get up. You're far from done. I groaned. It's been a month and a half since Shizuka left, and she still hasn't come back yet. It's honestly getting me worried. In that time I have been learning more clan techniques and other things that would help me for the hunt. Or trying to anyway. So far we've gone through scent tracking, interspecies communication, basic survival skills, canine transformation, tree hopping, coyote style, etc. I said get up, Squirt. I ain't got all day. She kicked my lifeless body. Affectionately, of course. Okay, I get it. I lifted myself up like a caterpillar, slow and weird looking. The look on Sim's face was worth it. If you got energy for that, you can run another lap. Now move it! I jogged half-heartedly, giving off my best impression of antipathy. Alright, stop. I beamed, flopping back down to the ground immediately. Since I was 5, it wasn't all that far. Sim crossed her arms, giving her best impression of not impressed. I'm gonna be honest with you. At the rate you're going to fail. My smile fell. You're pretty good at learning new skills quickly, but your end product is average at best. That'd be fine if you were doing the hunt when you graduate, but someone decided entertaining the taunts of a little girl into a murder forest was a good idea. I bit my cheek, ignoring her last statement. Then what do I do about that? She sat down opposite to me and handed me a small piece of paper. Oh, okay. What do you know about chakra natures? I held up the chakra paper for her and flared some chakra into it. It wrinkled around the point it was touched. Figures. Lightning, huh? Good. I'd have no idea what to teach you if you had something lame like water. I gave back the paper to Sim, who waved it off. The paper stayed wrinkled. I thought your chakra nature was hereditary? Usually, yeah. Most of the Inuzuka have either lightning or fire ones, though Mom inherited a secondary wind one, so it's likely you did as well. Do you have it? She flipped through some hand signs and stuck a hand out. A small burst of wind knocked a wayward training dummy to the ground. I clapped semi-sarcastically. She pushed me in response. I ain't gonna teach you that one though. Wind's not very useful for more than offense, and learning more than one nature at a time is too time-consuming. Though it's not like lightning on its own won't be hard either way. Why's that? She took out a piece of paper and a pen. It looked very strange in her hands. She started writing zodiac signs with arrows between them. It's hard to control. On top of that, there's a steep learning curve. Can you guess why? After she finished with the signs, she drew a circle with a line through it. Because it takes a lot of chakra? Since it can be so powerful. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that lightning falling from the sky is hotter than the sun. That's a lot of energy, and probably not something my 5-year-old body could pull off. Well, probably. This is Naruto after all. Close. Most lightning techniques are C rank and up. Meaning there's almost no jutsu you could use to familiarize yourself with the element. This, she shoved the paper she'd been working on into my face. Is a D rank jutsu that you're gonna focus on learning. It's basically the only one. After this, of course. She took a small rod out of her pack and handed it to me. It had no handle, just an exposed-looking metal part with a small lamp on top of it. The finished paper had the words lightning release, charge strike messily written at the top. That's a practice rod. It glows different colors depending on the concentration of energy you put in it. It turns red for physical and green for spiritual. Yellow is perfectly balanced. Have fun. Then she vanished. I sighed, putting the paper below a rock and grabbing the rod in 2 hands. I put some chakra into it. It lit up green for a second, then flickered out. Oh, so I have to do this continuously? Fun. Trying again, I put in some more chakra only for it to turn purple. The hell does that mean? After it flickered out, I tried again. This time I focused on imagery. Electricity. Erratic, fast, destructive. It worked better this time, glowing green for a few seconds and then flickering out again. I looked at the chakra diagram. In the circle it had percentages written in it. The left side had the kanji for spirit and 39% on it, while the right had the kanji for body, with 61%. So I need to put in more physical energy then? Grabbing the rod again, I tried focusing on putting in physical energy instead. And it changed nothing. A few more tries led it to be slightly less vibrant but still very much obnoxious stoplight green. Frustrated, I let out a burst of chakra and it promptly turned purple again. This bitch. I should halt some back here to explain this. I tried searching for her chakra. Nothing. Not in the compound? Strange. As far as I know, she's been staying in the compound to have Dad attempt to teach her clan head stuff. Keyword attempt. Sent it is then. Tracking her all the way back to a densely forested area on training ground 67, I saw her with someone else doing no my kami. She seemed to stop mid-EW and sharply turned her head to the tree I was in. Fuck! She shouted sharply as she spotted me. The guy she was with turned around as well and, like a deer about to be mauled by a 3-ton chunk of rapidly accelerating metal, stood stock still. I leapt down to the ground, a quick application of chakra to my feet breaking my fall. In the meantime, they seemed to have gotten their act together, rapidly reorganizing their clothes on their bodies. Well, tracking you here by scent wasn't that hard. Although judging by the other more unsavory scents, maybe I should have just stayed away. You damn well should have. She snarled, as she approached aggressively. Time to play the baby brother card. I can still get away with that, right? So, mister, I looked at the guy. Long blonde hair, friendly eyes, if there is such a thing. A strong jawline. Quite handsome by Leaf standards. Well, at least some has taste. Shin, he said curtly, eyes looking anywhere but at mine. What were you doing with Sumne? I said, trying to make it sound as innocuous as possible. Sim stopped her steady walk towards me and clicked her tongue. You know exactly what we were doing. They cover it explicitly enough in the kennels. Whoops. Yeah, I remembered that. It was mostly a strange mix of abstinence and pictures. I don't like to think about it. Shin gave her a strange look. I focused my attention on him. His existence in itself is strange, since I don't remember Sim ever mentioning having a guy in her life. Then again, I don't think I've ever met anyone she interacts with besides Karamaru. Deciding to investigate a little more into him, I pushed some chakra into my nose and frowned. Flowers, office, and Chizuru-sensei? A Yamanaka? Better question. Why were you doing with Sumne? I said, crossing my arms. Shin broke out into a sweat, subconsciously walking backwards. A Yamanaka. Are you sure that's safe? Sim looked caught out, defensive. Her posture screamed tension, which she should be able to easily hide as a jounin. It's not like I'm going to marry him or something. Not something you have to worry about, Erita. I could swear I saw the briefest flicker of hurt in both of their eyes. Interclan marriage isn't really a thing anymore, mainly because of bloodlines. Most of the time a child from 2 different clans is at worst stillborn, and at best incapable of using chakra. Most of those who did try still using it started vomiting blood. For obvious reasons, interclan marriage is banned in Konoha. I resisted the urge to sigh. Can you help me with this, Rod? And what the hell does purple mean anyway? They smiled, relieved. I don't think they think that this is over, but I'll let it drop for now, I guess. Some POV. That was close. Way too close, I said, as soon as Arata's chakra signature left the training ground. Agreed. Maybe we should try scent masking. Or staying at a hotel, like normal people, Shin said with a smirk. No way. There'd be records and Mom watches me way too closely already. Honestly, the woman needs a hobby. Ever since she's taken that in-village patrol job, she's been around too much. Which means she's in my business too much. We stood in silence for a while. I was debating whether or not to pounce him again when he spoke up. The kid's smart. Too smart. I scoffed, getting closer to his side. The gradual approach is a little standard, but somehow he never sees it coming. You don't know the half of it. I taught him scent tracking 2 weeks ago, and he's already using it against me from halfway across the village. The kid's learning rate is unnatural. Sometimes I feel like I'll tell him something and he already knows and is just waiting for me to be done explaining it. It's almost prodigal how fast he picks it all up. I haven't told him any of that though. His ego would get annoying. Scratch that, more annoying. You'll keep him close, right? He said, a tinge of sadness covering his usually even voice. I took his hand. It wasn't exactly the same, but of course. I'm practically his caretaker at this point. I think Mom and Dad are starting to get suspicious with the caretakers, considering how often he's simply not at the kennels anymore. It only takes one time. I moved again to put my head on his shoulders. He'll be different. He's been opening up recently. I've been thinking of taking him somewhere outside the village a bit. Broaden his perspective, you know? He finally looked to me this time. And the clan will let you? Moving to face him, I allowed a smirk, and my favorite kind no less. A predatory one. I'm the heir. If we start having problems, it'll be them that have to move. He smiled, some of the melancholy leaving his eyes. Suddenly, I pushed him down, free hand removing the clothes he wore. Now I believe I wasn't finished. Erita POV. Turns out the purple meant I wasn't even using lightning-natured chakra at all. Can you imagine? On top of that, Sim was about as helpful as you could imagine, with Mr. Silky blonde hair next to her. Like some teenage girl, the weirdo could barely string 2 sentences together without looking at him. Wait, how old is she again? I never bothered to ask. Pushing open the gates to the kennels, I stepped into a familiar subdued atmosphere. One that wasn't present since the war. Kids that were playing outside were doing so quietly, and out of the way. Adults sat on the patio murmuring conversation to each other, weary faces masking their disdain for the world. The setting sun shined its last vestiges of light over the field, and everyone there made sure to watch it go. I pocketed the rod and headed over to the adults. A few of them sent surprising looks my way, others looked resigned. What happened? I asked. The adults stayed silent, trading gazes apprehensively, waiting for someone to be brave enough to speak up. Eventually a voice responded from the back, low and calm. He at least deserves to know. A large black canine in the back said. I recognized him as one of the elders, on account of the graying on the edges of his muzzle that was so recognizable in the meetings. Most of them never made it that far after all. Another bout of silence, and the next voice rang out. UMEs. Shizuka is in the hospital, in critical condition. Chances are she'll make it through, although it's not guaranteed. My thoughts stopped. What could I even hope to think? Yuemi went on. It's likely there will be complications, and she may not come out combat ready. In addition, she may have to. Nobuyuki interrupted her. I hardly see a reason to tell him any more than this. We have told him what we needed to, and that should. My thoughts raced back into action, suddenly overwhelmed with an urge to do something. Where is she? A burst of chakra left me, and I could feel my canines growing. The adults sharpened to attention, suspicion marking them. Likely the intent I had thrown in the air. Right, no, I couldn't care less about what they thought of me though. I needed answers. And I needed them fast. Yuemi didn't look at me as she answered. In the leftmost ward, 3rd floor. I sped my way out of the compound, for legs technique making up for my lack of body flicker. Dashing through the village, I should supposedly still see everything well for the speed I was going, but my mind seemed to want to absorb nothing more than colors and lights, searching for the one combination of blue and white I needed. As soon as I found it, I rushed through the doors, only to have someone catch me by the midriff. And what do you think you're doing? A familiar voice murmured close to my ear. Turning my head, I saw that one Uchiha officer I met last time. I snarled at him. I have no time for you. Out of the way. I flipped through hand seals clumsily, transforming myself into my canine form. An Inuzuka's canine form is usually their partner's, and taking full advantage of Shiramaru's tinier body, I wiggled out of Fugaku's grip and ran the stairs up to the 3rd floor on unfamiliar legs, leaving the surprised shouts of people seeing a random dog running through the halls behind. I frantically searched the left wing, eventually giving up on sight and relying on my nose instead. There. I undid the transformation and opened the door to the room. I didn't know what to expect when I saw her. But I certainly didn't expect to see the Hokage standing at the side of the bed, covering my view of her face. Shaking myself off of my hesitance, I entered the room and approached the bed. The man next to me seemed to pay me no mind, not even turning, although I could definitely feel his eyes on me. Seeing Shizuka's face, I held my breath. I had no comparison to hold it to, but it was still somehow worse than I thought. She was unconscious, of course, with her hair roughly torn out of her usual braid, and burn marks covering her neck going down and getting worse further down. Several dried-up patches of blood littered her hospital bed, even after a supposed cleanup. The absurd amount of devices and seals she was hooked up to told an even worse story, giving horrible readings for everything short of her heartbeat. Her breathing was shallow and uneven, and her few remaining chakra reserves flickered awkwardly. I spent what felt like an eternity just watching her, trying to comprehend this new reality. Shizuka of all people is here, injured. Not mom and dad, not Sim. Not any field ninja, but Shizuka. I held onto the bed railings tightly, not trusting myself to keep me stable. I thought I could trust you to keep at least an academy student out of the secure wards, Fugaku. I turned to the sound of Hiruzen's voice. Standing there at the entrance was Fugaku and my dad. Well, there were complications. He gave a pointed look at Dad. I would like to know why one of my most trusted caretakers is currently in the hospital, Hokage-sama, he said curtly. Hiruzen closed his eyes, then opened them again. Approximately 6 weeks from today, one Inuzuka Shizuka was sent by personal missive of the Jounin commander to a hidden mist camp on the outskirts of Hirajima Island. Some hours before current time, she was found at the edges of the west gate. Why would Shikaka send one lone Tokuju to disputed territory? Dad asked. Unfortunately, the freedom to disclose such information does not lie with me, he responded. Dad took a step forwards, officially in the room now. Then who does it lie with? They are currently unconscious in this very room. Dad didn't have a rebuttal to that. The Hokage looked to me. I assume this is your son, Hisao Dano? Dad crossed his arms, not happy at the redirect. Yes, he is. I gave his gaze back to him. What is he trying to accomplish here? And why is he here in the first place? What is your name, child? He asked, tone slightly warmer than when he talked to my dad. Arita. And not to be rude, Hokage-sama, but why are you here? I'm really grateful that as a child I don't have to deal with all the stupid info wrestling and can just ask. He smiled. A deliberate action. Likely for the same reason you are, Arita-kun. And of course because they're ninja, I still get stupid answers. I turned back to Shizuka, hoping the child excuse again would help me get out of the conversation. I watched her more carefully this time, paying attention to the way her condition seemed to take a toll out of her. Sweat seemed to slowly accumulate on her face from some kind of exertion, as if she was fighting herself somehow. It made me anxious, knowing I could do nothing to stop this from happening. And knowing that in the future, she might not come back at all. Powerless to stop it. Not only her, but everyone around me would eventually be sent to fight and die. And what can I do? Nothing. Nothing but sit here at their hospital bed and hope they don't snuff it while I'm there. At one point, once the conversation stopped and the Hokage had left, Dad came to my side and took me into his arms and away from the bed. I didn't protest, since I could feel several similar chakra bodies coming up to this room. Mednin probably. I situated myself on his shoulders, and with one last look at Shizuka, left the building. I didn't want to talk the way back, but since we hadn't body flickered, I assumed he wanted me to. Shizuka will be fine. And what proof do you have of that? I didn't try to make it sound accusatory, but it did end up coming out that way. I shirked a little away from him. He instead just held me closer. Injuries like that leave a mark, but a certain kind of people always manage to pull through. I believe Shizuka is one of those people. I thought back to the burn marks, the worst damage being at the heart. Not even mentioning all the other injuries the monitors indicated she had. You think so? I murmured, barely audible to anyone not Inuzuka. His answer was resolute. I know so. For me, it wasn't enough. Some POV. I'm bored. Like, incredibly bored. I really don't know why I decided to do this now. I could have put it off for at least a year more. The nagging would be there, but it was an option. Why isn't Arita doing this instead? He'd love it. Sitting around all day doing complex talk. Cammy, I miss Shin. I wonder what he's doing right now. Probably having fun tending to his flowers or something. He should be tending to me. Tending. Pay attention. You're showing. Kuramura's voice rang out to me in my head. Coming back to reality, I noticed something wet coming out of my mouth, and a few people trying their best not to give me disapproving glares while paying attention to Himura's droning. One of them happened to be my dad. Oh shit. I thought, quickly moving to inconspicuously wipe the drool off my face. Oh shit is right. I don't think Hisao's gonna let it go this time. We're in a monthly after all. There was a round of voting. 5 out of 4 voted against Dad. A stalemate again then. He dismissed the council for a 15-minute break and gestured for me to follow him to one of the many break rooms. Good luck, Kuramura thought, as he followed Amaru in the opposite direction. Bitch. After activating the privacy seal on the room, he turned to face me, eyes weary. What do I have to do to get you to want to be clan head? I winced slightly, like damn, tell it to me straight. I just don't understand how all this droning on and on about taxes and the village is going to do anything. We've had only dead ends in these last few months. Another one, just now. He took a long time to just examine me. It's not really anything new, but it still unnerves me to this day. It irked me, feeling this way under his gaze. After a while he walked to the counter and poured some pre-made coffee for himself. He gestured to the comfortable seating on his opposite side, obviously wanting me to get comfortable for a lecture. I obliged him, walking slowly while never breaking eye contact. He took a sip and started. You know, I never wanted to be clan head. I enjoyed other things, a lot of them more destructive than some seeming office job. But then Atsushi died in the first war, with Rei following after him in the second. And grudgingly, your granddad decided it would have to be me. Himuru and Chiharu among others weren't pleased, but the elders didn't have near the amount of power than they do now. I wasn't pleased either. I was content, you know. living a life on the explosive side of the R&D division, leading the research on new and more threatening forms of combat with a beautiful wife by my side. Far from the Inuzuka way, he added, with a smile. Something seemed to happen outside, as he looked through the window. It was a frog, leaping from one leaf to the pond below it. I guess I was running in some way. When I came back and I saw the clan for what it was different than they made it seem to be. I was outraged by the things that were happening, and decided to change it. I made a lot of sacrifices and concessions along the way, but ultimately, the Inuzuka came better off. I think you need to find that outrage. A feeling of I want to do better. He left me in silence for a while, content to just slowly drink his coffee. His eyes were not on me. What am I even supposed to think? Of course there's things wrong with the clan. Arata's situation is barely even the start. But I'm not the one who should be leading that charge. Hell, even Arata as he is now could probably do better than me. Just throw him into some emergency economics and government courses and he'd be fine. If that's not an option, Mom or Rika are also better qualified than me. Hell, Shin could do better. What could I bring to the table that others can't? For this next round, I want you to listen carefully to what they're really saying, and not the words that come out of their mouth. He set down his empty cup and opened the door, canceling the privacy seal in the process. I went back in, this time paying attention a little bit more to the small groups coming out of their respective break rooms. There, Haimaru, flanked by his mate, Harumi. On the other side, a larger group. All heads or former heads of departments. In the front and leading them was Sayuri, eyes watching the room just like mine. We made eye contact. To their left was a distinctly separated group led by Nobuyuki and Uemi. Some more flickered in, mostly elders without alliance. Yasuko, Kaoru. The elders sat down in a circle, their followers seated behind them. Dad, once finished giving paper folders to them, sat down at the largest seat with me flanking him. After everyone collected themselves, Dad started. The Council of the Inuzuka clan of Konohagakure, on the first month of fall, 41 CT, will now begin their second half of sessions. The scribe on Dad's other side, whose name keeps eluding me, started writing furiously in his open scroll. First topic on the floor, he continued, regarding the recent fair herbs, a medicinal herb contractor's proposal. The proposal in question is a 2-year contract providing Wind Country exclusive medicinal herbs to the clan only. One of which, the razor mint, is crucial to treating the symptoms of irregular chakra discharge disease. An affliction which presents a danger for many in the clan. Shizuka. Since coming back from the hospital, she's been quite frankly a mess. Although most of the broken parts of her body have underwent healing and need mostly rest, it's being slowed down by ICD, or irregular chakra discharge disease. A disease which makes you randomly discharge chakra in your body through harmful canals. Long-term symptoms include burst tenketsu and inflamed chakra pathways, which makes using chakra incredibly difficult. Sadly, it's very common in the Inuzuka clan, since it's a major side effect to overuse of the 4 legs technique. Details on the trade are found in your given folders. There was a moment of shuffling in which the elders looked at the papers, all with the most stoic expression possible. The deal is nothing if not favorable, he added, with a tinge of hope. I propose a referendum. Haimaru croaked out. I resisted the urge to sigh. Of course. Dad, on first glance, looked to be undisturbed, but I could tell he was just as annoyed that literally everything he said just had to be contested. On what grounds? Dad asked. The contract is unfavorable in regards to our relations with the village, Haimaru said, barely blinking. Referendum in progress, Dad said, like ripping off a bandage. Everyone sat up a little straighter. Haimaru got into droning mode. Our relationship with Hidden Sand has been shaky since its conception. This is widely known. Now that the Second War has ended, it has left us with an uncomfortable peace treaty after many rough battles with them. Rough doesn't even begin to explain it. The effects of the bastard's poison still give me nightmares to this day. I believe it is unwise to pursue this deal without the village acting on some part of it. If we are to proceed with the deal without notice to the villages, it would likely escalate conflict between them. You would pursue more village interference in our already limited scope of actions? Yasuko asked. It would give them more leverage to further increase control over us. Give them a meter, they will demand a kilometer. Why should we even go through with the deal at all? Village or no village, the returns for the price established just isn't worth it. In the back, Nobuyuki clamored. This time Dad came into the fray. So you would deny herbs from them, many of them cheaper than the market price we are already getting for our pharmacies and veterinarian departments? I believe you misunderstood me. The exclusive herbs are the object in question, which I do not believe are worth the price, which is the whole point of the deal. And what price would you suggest would be worthy of the product then? Dad countered. Nobuyuki scoffed. At least half. Dad almost looked scandalized. Yeah, no kidding. According to the folder given, bringing the price down by half is, in today's market, practically impossible. The contractor would probably sell them at a loss at that rate. You do not believe they are worth treating almost a dozen clan members, along with assisting in bringing revenue to our pharmacies and clinics? And how would you know if there is even a strong enough demand for medicines incorporating these herbs? Yuemi interfered. The market for it is there. Not only for international business but right here in the heart of Konoha we could treat or cure, on the top of my head, a minimum of 5 diseases common in Land of Fire domestic and wildlife creatures. Diseases which we simply do not have the resources to handle currently. As head veterinarian, this is a gold mine of opportunity just waiting to be tapped. And I think Fair Herbs recognizes that as well. Nobuyuki gave Yuemi a dirty look. Well, that brings us back to the main argument, doesn't it? Can we trust Sand enough for a deal like this to even be profitable? Sayuri said, looking very unimpressed. Obviously not. They were our allies, if you don't remember, in our last war. And they turned on us. They have always wanted what we have. Resources, land, power, status. Sharing of the only advantages they have on us will make them more jealous, make them loath. And in turn, make them start more conflict. Yasuko stated. It sounded like a final verdict. Dad must have heard it too, for he called in a vote. 5 out of 4 again. A stalemate again. On to the next topic on the floor. Clearly the vote wasn't satisfactory for anyone, since they didn't seem very eager to move on from it. I wasn't either. Arita POV. Will you stop running? I pretended like I didn't hear her, and kept marching. The stop line was long behind me already. Some stood herself in front of me. I said stop running? That means you stop running. I bumped into her, not intending on stopping. She of course didn't move, so I was left static. The pain was catching up to me, and I collapsed on her. She didn't catch me, just let me slide off her leg and on the ground. My vision was blurry, my legs and sides hurt. I stopped moving anything but my legs long ago. I had a massive headache. Yet I still felt far from done. You need to rest. You can't go on like this, and trying to delude yourself into thinking so is going to hurt you in the long run. Especially with your age. With no regards to me, she picked me up and brought me back to the head's house where I'd been staying recently. I couldn't move, so with a click of her tongue, she bathed and fed me, then flopped me down onto my futon. Finally regaining some feeling into parts of my body, I could feel that itch again. It came whenever I sat still for too long. An itch that seemed to call me to do more. More and more and more until I finally satisfied it. If not, the itch would develop. And get worse, until I saw more than I wanted to. Now what's really your problem? I really doubt Shizuka would want you to join her sickbed. I kept from wincing. It wasn't all that hard, considering my state. The problem? How could I tell her? How could I tell her that this wasn't the end? That there would be another even more devastating war in a few years. That her children would grow up to fight a war even worse than that. Shizuka would be the start. Next it would be Mom and Dad. And it would just keep spiraling, I just knew it. I'm scared. She raised an eyebrow. What? For the hunt? Little late for that, kid. If I had enough energy for it, I would scowl at her. I'm not strong enough. We're ninja. Made to fight. And I'm not strong enough. If there was one thing that really drove home how messed up of a place this was, it was my body. It felt disorienting, being faster and stronger and more flexible as a 5-year-old than I could even dream of being as an adult from before. My mind would automatically focus on different things as well, things that could be a threat. Things that moved or made noise went off like an alarm bell constantly. I was born a weapon. Intentionally bred to fight and kill. And every action I took subtly reminded me of that. I learned to live with it for a while. Ignored it and repressed it. But Shizuka made it all come back. Shizuka is strong, no doubt about it. I experienced it firsthand, no less. But even she was dominated by whoever or whatever she faced out there. Meaning that even with all the strength I had, I would barely weigh a kilo compared to the tons next and opposite to me. Knowing there were people that could think you away, and seeing it was so different. And this time I did scowl, however much energy it took me. People are going to die. Tomorrow, today, I can't sit around anymore. She laughed. That's just reality, kid. It doesn't matter if we're ninja or not. We're all gonna die. The menaces of this world want to see you dead, ninja or no. You're safe here for now. Why stress out about it? Her answer made me pause, but really what did I expect from Sim? The future will catch up to us, I said, my eyelids closing from fatigue. Then let it. Some challenged. I was sitting in class, as usual, not paying attention. Just taking the time to think. Occasionally using the small marble I had for some chakra control exercise I picked up from a book. Then let it. I kept from banging my fist onto something. How in the 7 rings of hell does that even make any sort of sense? I could be killed, maimed, and tortured so easily in this world. Mind controlled, raped, and defiled on nothing more than a whim. Why would I let that come to me? Come to others? Arida. A stern voice sounded from across the classroom. Explain Rule 62 of the Konoha Shinobi Handbook, and why it was implemented. Ugh. Shinobi Rules. Otherwise known as Shove Down Your Throat Brainwashing 101. Rule 62 states that when caring for an injured client, a non-Iryonin may not use Iryo ninjutsu without clear verbal permission. I drawled. The reason for the implementation of this rule comes from the idiocy of an inexperienced chunin harming an incredibly wealthy client when trying to heal him, and after the fuss raised about it, promptly getting demoted to genin. Chizuru-sensei nodded once, as if that wasn't a super abridged version of an explanation. Well, it's better than what she usually gets, since we're all 5. And what would you do if given this situation in the field? For example, say you know the basics of the mystical palm jutsu, and your client has just been sliced across the arm after a combat scenario gone wrong. You have no first aid kit as it was used extensively on said mission already. You are the only member of your squad left, and your client is unconscious, bleeding out from the cut given by your assailants. What would you do? Is that interest she's showing me? She usually doesn't ask follow-up questions when asking for shinobi rules, seeing as they're not supposed to be questioned and all. If waking him up doesn't work, I would heal him. He has to be alive to be able to bitch about it, right? If he prefers his ego over his life, then it's already too late for him. She raised an eyebrow, barely noticeable under the glasses she wore. Are you implying you would kill the client if they raise complaints over their imperfect healing? This got some ruckus from the other children listening. Apparently they didn't get the underlying context. I started rolling the marble around my arm, using only chakra to stick it to me and move it along. It's just an option, not one I would take if I didn't have to, of course. It would solve a lot of problems, though. Less bitching for one. Chizuru-sensei was quiet for a while. An interesting perspective. She moved a piece of paper from one stack to another on her desk. See me after class. Oh fuck. Some of the kids, sadly out of my immediate reach, sniggered. After that the class went on normally, although some kids would give me looks every now and then. At the end of the day, after the rest of the kids left, I was called on the intercom to come to room 201. Hiyama gave me a sympathetic look upon walking to greet his parents, but didn't say anything. Well, I didn't need your comfort anyway. Pa. Opening the door and walking in, I saw Chizuru-sensei at her desk working on some papers at the front of the classroom. She didn't acknowledge me walking in, so I just sat down at the row of seats closest to her and waited. For a long time, the only sounds I could hear were the winds from an open window outside, the clock ticking, and the scribbling of her pen. In the halls you could hear a voice every now and then, coming and going. Chizuru-sensei continued to write. Wait. Am I in detention right now? I slowly reached for my pouch, and pulled out 2 marbles this time. Chizuru-sensei paused for a second, her eyes obscured by the glare of her glasses, and continued scribbling. Alrighty then. This went on for another 20 minutes, with me adding more and more marbles to my body, rolling them all over the place. At 9 marbles it became a little harder, and sometimes one of them would fall off of me. At those times, Chizuru-sensei stopped, supposedly to stare at me, and then promptly going back to writing. The stack of papers she was working on seemed to have no end. I didn't envy her. Arida, I started, and half of my marbles dropped to the floor. Focus more on areas where you lack control. Forgo the arms, for you have no pressing need to improve control there. Instead, increase the amount of marbles you circulate at your hips, back, and feet. I stared at her for a while. I mean, what? Shaking out of it, I followed her instructions, and found I had to significantly decrease my marble count to 4 to be able to keep up. The more I rolled them along, the more my concentration got lost in it. Time passed slowly. After another hour of silence, my chakra reserve started dipping, so I stopped using the marbles and moved on to a book about genjutsu. I didn't expect to become a genjutsu expert anytime soon, but any sort of skill in it might prove helpful one day. Another hour went by, and it started getting dark outside. In all actuality, I had already finished the book. I just needed to go over some of the techniques listed. I had been practicing one of the easier ones to learn, a harmless one really. I just needed a target. I arranged my book so as to stand on its cover, hiding my hands from view. Demonic illusion, false surroundings technique. Focusing, I made it so that there was an extra pen on the edge of her desk that looked like it would fall off. Not gonna lie to you, doing even this is really hard. It's not even moving, it's static. She took a small break from her paperwork, stretching her arms over her head. She looked towards the pen, then towards me. She took off her glasses. This is pretty cool, actually. Didn't know there were genjutsu specialists that could create entirely new words like this without a Sharingan. You are surprisingly calm about this, Chizuru-sensei said. She was standing opposite of me, without her glasses. Her eyes were an intimidating yellow-brown mix, yet it didn't make them any less piercing. I looked around. Streams of color danced in between each other, blending to form more colors. It seemed to move and stand still at the same time. Looks a lot like an expressionist painting, though I wouldn't know. I was hardly into art when I was younger. Maybe. How did you do this anyways? Knowing how to make entirely new realms isn't exactly common, I asked. It is an extension of my Kekkei Genkai, along with a combination of seals. She didn't elaborate, which was fair. Sounds complicated enough from just that. I mean, what kind of seals alter your eyes? This technique is an original one strictly for my use. It allows me to communicate with anyone through mere eye contact. 1 minute here is roughly 1 second outside. Interesting. So it's like Itachi's Tsukuyomi? No. Not truly. If I really tried, I could probably break out of this, even as an academy student. So what do you need to talk about then? That required a covert intelligence jutsu like this, went unsaid. Your more recent results have been inconsistent with data accumulated over the past few months, and almost directly conflict data provided by the Inuzuka clan. Figures. Over this last month, I haven't exactly been hiding what I could do anymore, making my performances, on paper, skyrocket. Although I'm still not at the top on more physical tasks, I am undisputedly on top for written and theoretical works, which put me at number 2 on the rankings. I'm kinda surprised I didn't clinch number 1, but I guess written tests can only count for so much. Not that it mattered in the end. And you want to know why? Not a question, a statement. I see no reason to beat around the bush. Fair enough. She's a Yamanaka, advanced enough to do this kind of BS, so she probably could figure it out. Maybe even more than I'd want her to. I sighed. Holding back just didn't seem like an option anymore. Any benefit I got from laying low paled in comparison to not being ready when the time came. I needed strength, and it's hard to get strength trying to hide it. And your reason for doing so in the first place? I didn't have an excuse. Not one that didn't sound treasonous anyway. Bluffing my way through it is then. The caretakers back home don't like me much. I figured standing out would draw more ire than necessary. There was a pause. Chizuru-sensei didn't stop staring at me. So far the only thing she's moved has been her mouth to talk. It's kind of unnerving. Like, move, woman. Do something. You're making me very self-conscious here. Your head caretaker informs me you struggle with communication. He told me rather plainly we should offer you no more attention than required, a notion not given rationale. Nobuyuki. I bit my teeth. He also told me, through many gratuitous words, that I should instead spend my efforts around other members, one Inuzuka Tomo especially. My eyes narrowed. He specifically outlined Tomo? She nodded. Finally. Not a statue. Although, am I even talking to her? Or just an avatar? For all I know, she could be watching me from any angle. Thanks, I'll keep that in mind. More awkward silence. Was that an indicator for the end of the conversation? She hasn't cancelled the technique. Does she expect me to do it? Is she just playing with me? Probably. What is a Konoha shinobi to you? She asked abruptly. I tried not to look away. Which answer do you want me to give you? This was the true clincher, yet still, no expression. Yours, she replied, not missing a beat. I took some time thinking about it. I knew what it meant to be a shinobi after all. It meant making deals with death, over and over and over until the one time you couldn't pay the dues. Of course I could hardly give her that answer, given her position. I don't know. I don't know what it means to be a shinobi, let alone a Konoha one. And it was true in some way. I didn't really know. Not until I was out there myself, fighting. Then tell me, do you have precious people in your life? People you'd want to protect? Her question gave me pause. Chizuru-sensei was about the last person in this village I'd expect to come up to me with this. Right next to Orochimaru. Of course I do. I don't even know how it happened. One day I was alone, and the next I wasn't. Maybe they were always there, and I wasn't. Regardless, I needed to protect them. Things would start to go downhill, and fast. Then you already know what it means to be a shinobi. I wasn't satisfied with the answer. Apparently it showed since she went on. Of course, that is far from all. But at the core, that is what a shinobi does. They endure to protect. 1. To conceal oneself, to hide. 2. To endure, to bear, to stand, to put up with. Their suffering is silent and hidden. It is necessary to keep ourselves afloat. What more could I add to that? Refute it and deny its truth? Unlikely. It was silent again. It seemed to be a theme of the conversation. You have served the duration of your detention. You are dismissed. So it was a detention. Before I had time to comment on it, the technique shattered and we were back in the classroom again. Chizuru-sensei continued writing as if nothing happened. Indignantly, I picked up my marbles and quickly left the classroom. Knowing Chizuru-sensei, she'd likely assign another detention if I tried to talk to her now. Outside at the exit, I saw an unexpected figure waiting for me. Shouldn't you be on patrol with Mom? I asked her. Yuna hardly needs me to be there for something simple like that. The only reason I still go is because I have nothing better to do, Hanako responded. We started walking in the direction of the clan compound. Her bright orange fur stood out heavily, even in the approaching darkness of night. I laughed a little. So what are you here for then? Shizuka was worried about you, so she sent me to come make sure you're not dead in a ditch somewhere. I ignored the stab of pain at the mention of Shizuka. Please, if I were to die in the village, I wouldn't choose a ditch for a grave. Too dirty. She snickered. What, too low class for ya? Would an honorary head on the mountain do? Depends, are they gonna add Shiramaru to it? I really like Hanako. She always manages to keep the light around, especially when you need it. Some admires her a lot, and I can see why. Only if they're feeling generous, she quipped. Once we got to the compound, I could see Shiramaru jogging, never running, to us. What's up with you? I asked him. Oh, thank Kami you're here. Amara just wouldn't leave me alone. He keeps making me train. It's kind of creepy how fast his speech is improving, even if that's half of what his day is dedicated to. He hopped onto my shoulder and tried to hide around my neck. I exchanged amused glances with Hanako. And that's a bad thing because? He looked super offended. Not you too. Hanako laughed. A little training here and there wouldn't hurt. Though enjoying your youth wouldn't go amiss either, you know, she added. Neither of us commented. Well, I'm here now, so you can tell Shizuka I'm going to try finding some for training. She gave me a look, but didn't say anything else as she vanished in a body flicker. After training with Sim, who was with Shin again, I went to the bathroom to shower. Shiramaru went in with me, since Amara showed up about halfway through, much to his dismay. After bathing, I looked at myself in the mirror. I could only see my face since I was so small, though. I saw close to shoulder-length brown hair and sharp eyes. Unlike most in Izuka, though, my hair was flat as a board, and if you looked closely, my eyes were more brown than black. They're probably from my mom's side, since her dad was a senju. One of the few clans who could interbreed, since their trait was chakra control and all. It was strange how much history there was in just my face. What are you looking at, you weebo? I turned my head sharply to Shiramaru. Run that by me again? He looked at me like I just forgot the number 7 existed. Did you forget what a weeba means? I switched to telepathy. No, not that, you idiot. How do you know? I get a view of your memories sometimes. Your mind's like a sad dam or something, it's always leaking. I was speechless for a while. Or thoughtless, whichever. So you know about Dash. The future? Oh yeah? Looks a little too exciting for me, gonna be honest with you. Then why didn't you say anything the whole time? I have no excuses. None. What do you mean you have no excuse? Well, I just kind of felt like you already knew. I made a weird sound I couldn't explain even if I tried. So we're just gonna run with that? Fate of the world in our minds and everything? Yup. There was an awkward pause, both of us just staring at each before we burst out laughing. Can I be honest with you? I asked. Yeah? You look like a Pokemon. What? No, I don't. Well, you're not like any other dog I've seen before, and you're just the right size too. I'm a Niken. What kind of Pokemon would I even be? Probably a normal type, since you're so lame. Oh, shut up already. I grinned. At this point, we had already left the bathroom and went into our room. I crawled into my futon, with Shiramura doing the same next to me. Are you sure about all this? Things are going to go wrong. Majorly wrong. We're going to war. I asked. Yeah, I can't say I'm not worried about that. But the thing is, we're not dead, and we're not going to be dead for a while after this. If the future scares you so much, how about you start thinking about the present? How old are you again? How old were you last time? That's not fair. I know, it's great. Ugh. All I'm saying is that tilt matters, especially with injuries since it can press on different nerves that way. Hayama looked disgruntled. You don't get it. It's not that simple. You have to. He stopped once he heard an announcer voice come over the playground. Will the following students come to the principal's office, please? Midarashi Enko Shirakumo Hayama Akimichi Toriun Inazuka Arata. The voice went on. We made eye contact. Are we in trouble? I really hope not, and started walking back into the building. I would like to congratulate you on the stellar performances you have delivered thus far, he went on and on. The principal is known for being long-winded, but this is getting annoying. I could start feeling my itch again. It was usually somewhat dormant during school, but the fact that I could see children walking out to their parents meant we should have been gone a long time ago. I think the message would be a lot clearer if I told it for them, Isaac-sensei. One of the teachers who had been watching until now stepped forward. I didn't recognize her. All of you were elected to take part in Konoha's Prodigy Initiative. Wait, what? Which means you'll be skipping grades. The process is simple. It's just like the rest of the academy. You keep up, you stay. You don't, you go back. Simple as that. Chizuru-sensei came to us and handed each of us a bundle of papers. Like our textbooks, they were very colorful and had lots of eye-catching little figures and arrows pointing at relevant information. The papers we've given you show your new grade, class assignment, and other general information. Memorize them. I flipped the page on my given papers. Apparently I went up 2 grades. Since I couldn't look at other people's pages from here, I couldn't tell if that was unusual. The changes are effective immediately, so you'll be going to these classes as soon as tomorrow. I flipped the pages and found a small diagram on the back detailing my performances thus far. Oh look! It even has helpful suggestions at the bottom on what to improve on. How nice! As part of the Konoha Prodigy Initiative Program, or PI for short, you'll be given certain privileges. PI kids, for example, have unlimited access to the Genin-level archives in the library. Chizuru-sensei added. That said, it is a great responsibility to be given such a status, and I expect you all to carry it with honor. The principal finished, with a rueful look to his teachers. They went on for a little while more until we were finally dismissed to go home. On the way back down, I compared papers with Hayama. We're in the same class. Do you think it's a coincidence? He asked. I gave him a droll look. We're being trained by ninja. Nothing is coincidence around here. Once Hayama left with his parents, I decided to stick around for a little while and thoroughly read the papers I was given. I didn't get the chance to though, as I was viciously ambushed in the middle of doing so. Mom, did you forget I like breathing? I wheezed out. She eased up a little on her death grip, allowing me the great luxury of respiration. Oh, what's that? I tilted the papers a little to the side so she could read it. Prodigy something something. Her eyes lit up in acknowledgement. Oh, that. I was wondering when they would give it to you, she said, a hint of pride in her voice. You know about it? I asked, intrigued. She lifted me up and set me on her shoulder instead, and took to walking. Sim was part of it for a while, when the program first started. So what's it actually for? They said they would give us privileges, whatever the hell that means. They mentioned Genin-level access to the library, but not much else. The papers we were given didn't elaborate much on it either. It's mostly to get talented kids through the system faster. It's also a highlight to other teachers to pay you a little more attention than others. I think some also got some extra work along with it. I don't remember. So it's like an honor roll compared with some special kid program type thing? Alright. It probably won't change much, anyway. Hey Mom, can you teach me more shuriken jutsu? She sighed, but it wasn't a fed-up one. So it's a yes then? Hello class. These are our new students joining us from other classes. Make sure to free up some space for them. Our new homeroom teacher Yamada-sensei said. He was nondescript, a lot different from the quiet oppressive aura Chizuru-sensei held. I switched my gaze to the class, trying to find a spot big enough in the rows of children for both me and Hayama. A lot of the children were obviously older than us, though I could see a small few a little closer to our age, likely being PI kids as well. They all gave us scornful gazes, which could only be a good sign. Hayama nudged me to a corner in the back that was semi-free and we headed over there. He seemed nervous, but I didn't mind. The glaring would lessen the more we were here, and Anko wasn't here. Always a bonus. We'll be fine, I whispered to him. He gulped. I hope so. I'm just glad he didn't make us introduce ourselves, I muttered with a smirk as the teacher continued talking about today's schedule. We will start our second round of sparring today at noon, so make sure not to waste too much chakra during class today. Both of our heads sprang up at the announcement. The few other PI kids who joined us in the class did the same. We would actually be using our chakra? And not only that, but spar? Alright, let's start with Yamada-sensei looked over each of our groups carefully, cross-referencing it with the list in his hands. Arita-kun and Ayam-chan. Oh great. I hesitantly walked over to the middle of the makeshift ring around us meant to serve as some sort of arena, and saw a girl on the opposite side of the ring do the same. She seemed to have none of the trepidation I did though. I started prepping myself up, and focused on my target. I recognized her as one of the PI kids I came into the classroom with, so she's around my age, with somewhat long ash-gray hair and a vibrant face. Seems nimble, for a supposed 5-year-old. Let's do this, yeah? She exclaimed. I didn't trust her eyes. Those eyes only spelled danger. Sure. We made the seal of confrontation and waited for Yamada-sensei. Begin. Before I got time to assume a stance, Ayam practically flew over to my side, fists at her side. Shit. I rolled to the side, and kicked outwards with my left foot while on the ground. It hit her guard, and she stumbled away from me a bit. Okay, new plan. I kicked away a punch she sent for me, and blocked her follow-up punch with my elbow, bringing me closer and closer to my face. She smirked and headbutted me. I fell down to the ground, holding my face. Because ow. Feeling her chakra coming closer, I rolled to the side again to see her heels come eerily close to my head. This girl doesn't mess around. In the background, people were making noise over our fight. I jumped off of the ground and prepared a stance. This would be difficult. Having to duck another punch, I was feeling very much over it and started a kicking barrage, lifting my left leg. Left, left, under. A simple pattern really, but highly effective. It swept her off her feet, and this time she had to roll away. She clutched her right arm a little, all with a smirk on her face, not once taking her eyes off me. Creepy much? You're really good. I could say the same for you. I leapt, claw hands forwards. She ducked and blocked her head with her arms, gaining the brunt of the damage there. We had to take a moment to rebalance ourselves and re-angle. That didn't go all that great, did it? She smiled again. Too bad, I'm gonna take you down anyways. Suddenly, she crouched down, changing her stance to better accommodate whatever she was doing. She sneered at me and launched. She appeared down at my feet and kicked upwards towards my chin, breaking my crossguard. Then slammed another kick through my stomach. She wasn't done, however, and proceeded to grapple my arm within hers, snaking around it, and using that leverage, catching my head in a leg lock, flipping me over and slamming me on the ground. Through the haze that came from the assault, I could vaguely hear the match being called. That was so fun. She offered me a hand, and we made the seal of reconciliation. Already Yamada-sensei was calling up the next fighters. I rejoined Hayama, this time with Ayam next to me. We have to do that again. I've never had a challenge from someone so small before. I bristled. What do you mean small? I'm taller than you. She still kept smiling. Smaller than the rest I took down, so small enough. I clicked my tongue. Hayama looked between us, not saying a word. I dedicated my focus on watching the other matches, and decidedly not on Ayam, who was still next to us for some reason. None of them were quite as fast as her, but still displayed some interesting technique. One of them, a Hyuga based on his fighting style, took out his opponent in less than 10 seconds. Interesting. Hayama eventually had to go up and fight, and because Yamada-sensei took pity on his jittery form, paired him up with an even more scared-looking boy. Another PI kid. Hayama's never actually learned taijutsu. His parents teach him kenjutsu instead. I figured that he thought he could compensate with the academy style later, but that's all messed over now. And as a consequence, he lost. Horribly. The jeering was annoying, and would do nothing for his self-esteem. I took him out of the ring, as he was practically frozen under the disdain, and I made sure to glare at the worst offenders. We were far from done here. We'll get back at them, don't worry about that. I whispered into his ear. He didn't look any part of reassured. I very deliberately took him with me to the opposite side of the ring, but there she was again, as if I totally didn't go here on purpose. What's wrong? She asked, her face the zenith of innocence. I didn't answer her, and just resolved myself to watching the last of the fights. I was very aware I was being unnecessarily obstinate, but something about her didn't quite strike me as right. Hey, are you okay? I heard from behind me. Glancing from my peripheral vision, I saw Ayam there checking up on him, her hands glowing green. How are you doing that? I asked, a little shaken. The amount of chakra needed for any type of Iryo ninjutsu at this stage makes it pretty impossible to use. Even a simple diagnostic jutsu would drain my reserves in seconds. Hayama looked at her just as wondrously as the large scrape on his leg healed over. Sorry, that's all I can do. This stuff's pretty draining, you know? She said, a little strain visible on her face. Hayama seemed to pay it no mind. That was awesome. Ayam just giggled a little, sitting down next to him. A little while later all the fights ended, and we were called back inside. Hey, why don't you guys come to my group tomorrow after class? Ayam asked. What group? I asked, making sure to put myself between her and Hayama. My group. We meet at Training Ground 12 and just hang out or train. It's fun. Hayama looked ready to accept, but I cut him off. We'll think about it. She nodded, and walked over to her seat in the classroom. Why didn't you say yes? We could finally make some friends. I tried not to show my displeasure at that dastardly statement. I don't trust her. You don't need Jounin level perception to tell that something about her is just off. Hayama puffed up his cheeks. She's nice. You're just mad she beat you. I am not. I hissed, just as Yamada-sensei walked in after some of the kids who took forever to get back in the classroom. Whatever, fine. We'll just go see what they're all about. That's it. That's all we're gonna do. Hayama nodded slowly and turned to Yamada-sensei, starting up the class again. Why am I here again? It's my day off. I could have caught up on more sleep. Shiramaru whined on top of my head. Your insurance. If things go haywire, I'ma need you there to help. I responded. Hayama walked beside me, Bakken on his hip. Since when can your partner talk? Since ever. He just never bothered before. Hayama just nodded, not wanting to pry further. We reached the place where Ayam stood waiting for us. Finally, you slowpokes. Everyone is already there. Let's go. And then she was gone, already hopping through the village rooftops. I clicked my tongue and followed after her, Hayama on my tail. Not literally, of course. Reaching Training Ground 12, I looked over the familiar field and lake. And yup, there she was. You! Anko shouted. Ayam-chan. What is he doing here? What do you mean, Arata? Oh look, Tomo too. This is just great. Oh hey. It's Arata! Kuta shouted. I almost sweat dropped. What is Hayama then? Hot air? For all his presence, he might as well be. Shiramaru replied in my head. Hey, be nice. He didn't respond. Sup, Hiru? He grinned, as all three of them walked over. I looked at the rest of the collected children. There were about 10 total, some I recognized, some I didn't. Ayam-chan. When you said you'd bring in talented new members, this is not what I thought you would bring. Scared boy and broody boy. Why would you bring them here? They can barely talk. They can't fight, Anko said. I smirked. Says the girl whose ass I beat, and then ran off. She grinded her teeth together at the reminder. That never happened, you dimwit. I was going easy on you. Tomo next to her cheered her on. Yeah, there's no way you'd lose to him, Anko. Anko smiled nervously. Then how about this? We do a 3 versus 3. Anko, Tomo and her partner against Hayama, Arata and his partner. Our ref. Ayam suggested. Yes, she definitely planned this. There's no way she didn't. All the children in the group started jeering. Ooh, you should totally do it, Arata. It'd be fun to see you fight. Kuta added over the noise. Tomo looked ready to go, hunger in her eyes, while Hayama backed off and hid slightly behind me. I sighed. Hayama? I won't be on my own, right? He asked, voice small. In the background, the rest of the kids all psyched themselves up for the coming fight. Be there the whole time. Shiramaru too. Grudgingly, Shiramaru inclined his head. This was going to be a tough fight, no two ways about it. Mentally going through my inventory, cross-referencing it with what I knew of my opponents. I knew I came up laughably short. I was going to rely pretty heavily on Hayama here to get the job done, so I definitely needed him on his game. The children looked content to keep their merry jeering going for a little while. I am gently guiding them off to the side to make space for us. Taking advantage of it, I whispered my battle plan to Hayama. He seemed to get measurably more confident the more I explained to him. Seems he likes a plan. Squaring up in front of our opponents, the crowd noise died down and the focus shifted back over to us. There was a kind of weight in the air, some important focus or force that I couldn't quite place settled over the place. Even Shiramaru looked serious. Time to get my A-game on. Whatever that is. I stood at the front, her arm in the air. On my signal. She made eye contact with each of us, before quickly bringing her hand down. Go. I flew into hand signs as Shiramaru and I moved in front of Hayama towards our opponents. Changing into canine form, I switched lanes with Shiramaru as soon as Anko dropped a smoke bomb at us. Good. Suddenly, a small form tackled into me and I stumbled back. Just barely dodging Tomo's claws, I faced off against her. Growling, we circled each other. The smoke was still fresh in the air, the smell itching at my nose. Potent ones then. Even better. Che. You think you're so much better just because of those stupid red eyes. You don't know anything. She scowled. You talk too much, I said, trying to imitate Shiramaru's lazy drawl. Not that Tomo would know what he would sound like. I'll show you. Everyone knows canines are weaker at this stage. I'll beat you. And then Arata. And then everyone will recognize me. Way to sound like a villainous Naruto. Still, where is this contempt coming from? If anything, people avoid Shiramaru because of his red eyes. Even then oh shit. Tomo came at me, the image too blurred to make out a form, and, just before I could dodge, kicked away at me. Yeah. You like that? Tomo cheered. That's what you get when you mess with me. Wait, what the heck? She exclaimed as soon as the smoke cleared. Shiramaru and Mariko were off to the side, biting at each other and just missing each time, circling each other much like we did. What was most eye-catching though was Hayama in a tug-of-war with Anko entangled in a ridiculous amount of his ninja wire. The crowd broke out in noise again. I smiled, poofed out of my canine form and ran over to them, Tomo on my now non-existent tail. Hayama! Now! I shouted as I finished the hand signs. As soon as my hands reached the wire, Hayama let go and jumped away. Lightning release, striking bolt. The lightning rushed through the wires, shocking the trapped Anko in it and dropping her to the ground. One down. Looking over my shoulder, I saw Hayama barely holding away Tomo with his bakken swinging wildly. Aya! Oh my god! Shiramaru! I called inside my head, for legs already running. Gotcha! Suddenly, he jumped backwards, and Mariko, almost unconsciously chasing him, followed suit just in time for me to hit her with a brutal hunter's kick. Feeling my legs connect with her skull, I knew she would be out for the rest of the match. And that's two, Shiramaru said. Let's go. I turned around and ran over to Hayama and Tomo, Shiramaru at my side, shooting me a sidelong look of worry. I was getting tired. 3 different jutsu in a row is taking a toll on me, and the fight's been barely a minute long. We came to the scene of Tomo just barely missing Hayama's face with her claw strikes. The bakken he was holding was chipped and scratched, little wood scraps littering the floor around them. High-low. Got it. I jumped up again, this time whirling into a tornado kick while Shiramaru angled downwards and launched himself at Tomo's legs. It felt like we were 2 rockets, slamming into her with all the power we could muster. Tomo turned around just too late for her to block, and twisted awkwardly from the 2 different trajectories, landing on her face in the dirt. And that's 3. The crowd cheered. You'd think from such a small crowd of children it wouldn't be this goddamn loud. Oh wait, I still have my 4 legs on. Tuning my chakra back down again, I dodged just in time from Hayama tackling into me. We did it! We won! We actually did it! What do you mean actually? We were always going to win. Yeah, that's a lie. We barely made it out. If the fight lasted for just a little longer, or one of the many variables I counted on weren't there for the plan, this could have gone horribly wrong. None of us could really hold our own physically against Tomo, and Anko, despite my earlier fight with her, is pretty much an unknown. Basically, we lucked out. Hayama tackled me again, crushing me under his hug. What are you, my mom? He just grinned, the bastard. Shut up, you like him. You shut up. Che. Never. Well, you're a bastard too then. Sumne? Kuramaru? What's all this? The amount of chakra they were building up was just gross. I could almost see it in the air, it was that much. Sum opened her eyes, the chakra dialing back down from "what kind of nuke are you launching" to just mildly explosive. Why? Arita, don't interrupt my meditation. I sat down next to her. What are you guys even meditating for that needs that much chakra? She sighed. Haiden. Now go away. I weighed the pros and cons of prodding further. Okay then. I stood up to leave. No, wait. Stay. I slowly sat back down again. What am I? A house dog? No, don't answer that. She gave me a once-over. So how bad did you lose? She asked, eyeing my roughed-up state. Dirt and grime on my clothes and in my hair, a ripped sleeve there. Cuts on my shins and a faint claw mark on my hand. Pretty sure there was still a twig in my shoe. I didn't. My opponent's just a sore loser, so I had to take a detour. After our fight, and subsequent celebration, we were gladly welcomed into the fold and introduced. Most of them seemed okay enough, and they absolutely adored Shiramaru, much to his annoyance, which naturally amused me greatly. So all in all I considered the whole thing a plus. Then Tomo got all mad about losing and decided chasing me halfway through Konoha was a better idea than nursing what's left of her too large for her head pride. So fun times. Kuramaru next to her started chuckling. Detour. Right. A hasty detour. I acted like I didn't hear him, which absolutely no one would believe. I still did it though. Well, okay. Better question, why are you here? There's no training today. Can't I just visit my dearest Nei-chan every once in a while? She didn't miss a beat. No. What do you want? I ran out of chakra a little too fast for my liking. So I need more. She sighed and stood up, stretching her arms over her head. Do some training, use more jutsu. Figure it out. I've been doing that. It doesn't work. I pouted. She paused for a little, staring into the open space of the training field. Put the forelegs up. Let's see what's wrong here. I did as she asked, shaking some leaves from inside of my shirt out first. Damn that Tomo. I feel like a bush. Coming back to the feeling of heightened awareness the technique brings, I quickly burned through whatever chakra I gained since the fight. So what did you get out of that? I asked, sweaty and a tad shaky. Your balances are off. You're either using too much spiritual energy, or too much physical. It flip-flops a lot. How can you tell? She turned up her nose haughtily. I can smell chakra. You can what? I've heard of the strangest things people say they've smelt over the years, from light pollution to ponytails, but never chakra. Smelling chakra should, by all accounts, be impossible, since by its very ambiguous and metaphysical nature is not something you can smell. Can you smell natural energy? Not what now? Never mind. So what's the problem then? Well, you have an unnatural amount of spiritual energy, but not much physical energy, which I think would make balancing pretty difficult for you. The trick's just keeping consistent, I guess. I stood up, trying not to react to that. And how do I practice that? She smiled. No clue. Nah, Shiramaru? I asked, once Mom and Dad left. The house at night was calm and silent, light barely reaching my eyes from the lack of windows. The only clearly visible thing was Shiramaru's bright white fur reflecting off the moonlight. Yeah? I had my own room by now, one at the edge of the compound. It's a lot bigger than I'm used to, and I'm still trying to find a way to fill all the space. Shiramaru's giant dog bed takes up a good portion, but it still feels empty, as if something is missing. Do you ever think about the other world? He was quiet for a while, his eyes closed. Is he sleeping? Sometimes. Why? My eyes started scanning the room, searching. In the corner there were plenty of scrolls on jutsu hastily scribbled together by Tsum, along with my notes and classwork interspersed. I lost a lot. Family friends before, I sometimes wondered if they were better off without me. Yet now, I don't know. Next to my bed there was a bear plushie, left behind for me by my parents for my 3rd birthday. I never really knew what to do with it, so I just kept it next to wherever I slept. Why do you say that? I looked down to my sleeves, trying not to grimace. One day Shizuka just randomly grabbed me and headed to a tailor to get my own outfit made. Apparently that was important. It's a black kimono/GI combination thing, with secret pockets and spaces on the inside for any weapons. Not that it's meant to be subtle, mind, with a giant Inuzuka emblem on the back in a lighter gray. It also had accompanying standard ninja pants, so it's not like it lacks for practicality. So far it's a little too big for me, so I've been using it as sleepwear. I don't know. It was a dark period in my life. I'm over it now, or I thought I was. Now they actually are without me and you wonder what they're thinking? I sighed. I'm doing that a lot lately, aren't I? You know? Sometimes I wonder what it'd be like, living in a world without this much fighting. Not having to get up to train every day. He opened his eyes. Not having to constantly prove myself. It'd be nice. But I don't live in that world. I think instead of looking at what others think, try and focus on your situation. We're going to war after all. I'd like to make it through alive. I huffed. Sure. Why not? What brought this on anyway? My spiritual energy. I didn't think anything but my mind would follow me into this world. It just got me reflective, I guess. I like it. I've been feeding off of it for a while now. I jerked. What? You can do that? He looked at me like I was an idiot. To an extent. How else would you explain me? Now that I think about, having a Niken capable of this level of speech when he's not even a year old is ridiculous. Fair. I conceded. Tomo. She's suspicious, he said, his tone changing. There's something going on around here we don't know about. What she said during our fight was interesting, to say the least. I flopped onto my bed. I know. But it's not like we can do much about it now except train. Ugh. Training. You'll learn to like it eventually. Yeah, when Tenten becomes Hokage. I chuckled. Well, you never know. She isn't born yet, so things could still change. Che. Sure they will. Go to bed, loser. Good night. Night, bitch. Some POV. Honestly, can't this be over already? I feel like I'm getting stuck in these situations way too often recently. I can see someone's been spending too much time around Erita lately. I pointedly ignored the jab towards my whiny little brother. You can say that again. Kid just keeps coming, asking for and more training. It's like he has nothing better to do. I'm starting to wonder if he even has friends. On the topic of friends. You and me? Some. Are you even listening? Haruo screamed, voice more strained every word he let out. No, of course not. You were talking after all, I said, smirk unquestionably there. The jeers dinged out among the rest of the crowd, jangling their booze bottles as appropriate. You should, considering it is the word of your soon-to-be fiancé, Nobuyuki helpfully pointed out. Wow, way to state the obvious, I muttered, downing the last of my bottle. As I was saying, I think it's bullshit that they still make you go to those meetings, Sim. It's not like they want you to even be there, Haruo added. They don't want Nobuyuki-senpai there either, and yet Shizuka countered, moving her still broken leg on the other side of the branch she was sitting on. Nobuyuki looked set to argue. Guys, can we stop throwing sparks at each other? It interferes with my sake. Michiko intervened, somehow balancing her cup on a bunch of leaves at the end of her branch. I'd better question then. The hell's up with Shizuka's mission? Rika spluttered. Shizuka collapsed in on herself. You gotta do a lot to make the red-hot habanero of all people scared of you. Rika's partner barked in agreement. I'd rather not talk about it. She really ought to do better on hiding her emotions, she's like an open book sometimes. I wonder who that reminds me of. SSSSHHHH. I don't think Shizuka likes to be reminded of something that permanently put her off the field. For all we know, she was lucky. Michiko intervened again. There was a moment of silence, and I tried not to think about the spaces in the trees purposefully left empty. Look, why don't we all just head home already? It's 3, and I've got a date tomorrow. How many does that make now, Michiko? 12 in the last month? Nobuyuki, ever the wise man, had to comment. PFF. No, of course not. It was 10. Whatever, man, I'm going. Got stuff to do, Susumu said, and with a swish of his tail, body flickered out. The rest followed, if less hurried. Haruo tried to come over to me, but Michiko swiftly walked past him in obvious dismissal. Slightly offended, he and his partner body flickered away. Thanks, I said. Michiko looked troubled, her way too pretty face contorting slightly. Are you sure you can't convince the elders to give up on that? Boy, I wish. Nah, my dad's conceded way too much ground for that. She shook her head. Politics. Tell me about it. I waited just below Shizuka's branch. She deftly jumped off, landing on her hands and slowly lowering herself down to the ground so as not to hurt her leg. That's risky? Using chakra like that. She smiled reassuringly at us. I'll be fine. Her chakra flared roughly, and her canines elongated for a second before retreating back. I'll be fine, Samsama. I don't know. That looked painful. Like hell you are. But it's alright. Nothing we can do about it for now. Michiko frowned. Can't say I like this new sim. What happened to the old do or die attitude from before? Just a few years earlier you'd have stormed the meetings and demanded the herbs yourself. I grew up, that's what. Learned that sometimes playing the waiting game is better than fucking it up for other people. I responded, with a little more animosity than required. Sim. Kuramura warned. Yeah? Silence reigned over the three of us. Look, now you've made it awkward. Me? Yes, you. You decided to open that stupid mouth of yours. She started it. Ha. Future clan leader everybody. I'ma just go now. I'll need the beauty sleep. She smiled in my direction. I smiled back. No, you don't. Michiko jumped through the trees to the direction of her apartment, apparently not wanting to flicker through. You know, I thought that after the war, the animosity within the clan would die down a bit, Shizuka said, after another long silence. Why am I still here? I sighed. Everyone's just tense. It'll blow over. Or boil over, she muttered before vanishing as well. Let's just get some more booze. I'ma need it. Agreed. Arita POV. I raced through the trees, ducking and weaving through different branches and bushes to try to shake her off. Just before turning over a corner of a particularly spiky branch, a swift elbow almost caught my ankle. I picked up the speed even more, and promptly dashed my shoulder into the trunk of a tree. It's obvious she's playing with me. She could have ended this a long time ago. Thing is, she's faster and more agile than me. So why am I doing this? Put plainly, I'm losing. And she likes winning too much to end this. Ha 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 ha. Her maniacal laughing echoed through the trees. One that could strike fear into even the most dominant of apex predators. It was one of a ferocious beast on the hunt, settled in the knowledge that its prey could never truly escape, living out its last moment with the angst of knowing their life is forfeit, and there was nothing they could do. Abu. Got ya! I cried, catching my midriff and midair into her arms, all giggles and sunshine and rainbows. We crashed into a bush, cushioning the fall somewhat. Ah, damn it. I tried not to pout, I really did. But put on the ropes by a child a quarter my age. She smiled at me, a smile that only a child could produce. Full of innocence and bliss, and I really couldn't stay mad anymore. Fine, you win. Oh, it's over already? Shiramaru called out from the side, in the arms of an Akimichi girl in my class. I thought you did pretty well, she said. Yeah. No one else my age survived as long as you did. I exclaimed, still on top of me for some reason. Survived? I tried to subtly push her off. She didn't budge. The other two looked at us awkwardly, not sure how to respond. I sighed, having flashbacks of me and my parents' reunion. In those early days they would stick to me like glue, and I just sort of learned to roll with it. They're better now, but I still get assaulted every now and then. So, as per protocol, I just lifted myself up, with I clinging to me. Like a scarf. Well, at least you're less heavy. She gave me a confused look. Any of you know where Hayama went off to? Shiramaru inclined his head. Over there, with Hiro and Tomo, fiddling around in the sand or something. We sauntered over to see what the big deal was. So Wadia got there? I asked. Hayama looked up from what he was doing. Tomo next to him jumped away and glared at me. Like a cat. Ironic. Well, I was just telling them that you could use the sand here in so many interesting ways. For tracking, right? Sand Nin are really good at this. They use sand bombs on a target they're pursuing. This way they'll always leave a trail. Hayama explained. But how would you differentiate between the sand on the ground and the one you threw? I asked. That's the best part. He exclaimed excitedly. This over here is garnet sand. It's a lot redder than the usual mixed quartz sand that you usually find. A lot of times they'll use this one or other fine volcanic sand. Wow. And I really was impressed. Every single day these kids give me more reason to be impressed by them. Sometimes it's like they're really just mini adults, just taking this form cause they're harder to hit. Ha! Hayama's so awesome. He's way smarter than you'll ever be. Dolt. Tomo just had to remark. I take it back. They're all blundering idiots who make me wonder how a society that relies on these terrors still functions under such sheer ID. Hey, that's not nice. You should be nicer to Erida. I am defended. Yeah. What she said? I don't care. Being nice is stupid. And it's true anyway. A rat is so dumb he once tripped over a log he was staring directly at. No, I didn't. I distinctly remember you pushing me over that log, you dunderhead. She growled. Did you just call me a dunderhead? Guys, maybe we shouldn't AR. Hayama tried to intercede, still blushing from Tomo's comment. I'll call you whatever I want, you glorified purse dog. She gasped. In fact, several people did. Okay, I may have jumped through a few too many hoops of propriety there. Also, those shadows on the ground seem awfully big, and oh, there's a giant fist hovering over my head. How did I not sense that? You can put them down now, Torian. I am nearly whispered in the silence. The Akimichi girl did as asked, and nonchalantly picked your armor back up. Tomo was sweating now. Why don't we all play a big game of ninja? I'll gather the rest. I am added. Kuda, who had stayed uncharacteristically quiet till now, celebrated loudly. Yada? Uh-huh. The group scattered, leaving me alone. Hayama went off with Kuda. Damn it. I got myself all riled up again. By Tomo again. I'm a sad excuse for an adult. I sat down next to a tree, moping, watching all the children coalesce into the clearing. There's Anko, riding Kuda's shoulders for some reason. Tomo seems to be talking with Hayama again, Kami knows why. Bleg. I looked away. Weren't you supposed to rally the common folk? I asked. Kuda can take care of that. He's really good at it too. I am emerged from the tree next to me. Sometimes I think I'm just there to make sure no one beats each other up. What? Like me and Tomo just now? She hummed. Yup, she exclaimed, then turned thoughtful. Why do you two not like each other anyway? I picked up a stick and started poking the ground with it. I don't really know. As far as I know, we never have. Tomo's always been the favorite of the caretakers, and I'm decidedly not. I guess it started there. As to why it progressed, I have no idea. Really? Tomo always talks about how everyone in her clan says she has to work hard to live up to you. Me? Why? She shrugged. I don't know. But I kind of understand it. She picked up a stick too, and started playing with it. Inspired, I guess. How so? I want to be clan head someday, you know? It'd be awesome, I think, for everyone in the clan to finally listen to me. Right now, everyone thinks one of my older cousins is going to be heir. Ever since Dad died, I haven't even been looked at. It's not fair. She flailed her stick around, as if she was hitting everyone in the clan on the head. So my Kasan has been training me a lot. But every time I do something awesome, Kasan's all like Asuma could already do this when he was half your age. Or something stupid like that. It's not fair. She shouted in anger. That doesn't make any sense. Most of the stuff I've seen you do is physically impossible for a 2 or 3-year-old to do. Your Kasan is lying to you. Her mom's putting a lot of pressure on her. I wonder why. Her face lit up as if she was just told the secret to eternal youth. Ha! Take that, Kasan! She yelled triumphantly, then slumped, as if possessed. I can't say that. Kasan's the only one in the clan that wants to train me. I can't be mad at her. She pouted. I guess we're in the same boat then. All the caretakers except one want nothing to do with me, so only really my family wants to train me. Really? You're like me? She almost sparkled. Why do you sound so happy about that? Well, when I tell everyone else about my clan, they always get jealous and are all like, you're so good at everything, why are you whining? And then they ignore me. What aren't you good at then? Well, she started blushing. Kasan's been trying to get me into using genjutsu, and what? I could already see where this was going. She stayed silent. You know, I could help if you wanted me to. I mean, I'm fairly good at it. At least that's what my family thinks, anyway. And it was true in a sense. For an Inuzuka, who barely ever bother with genjutsu, I'm light years ahead of pretty much everyone in the clan, which is a little